supposed to be a red light flashing or something.
Well, that's what Ronald Reagan thought. Would he say something like, honey, we're going to invade the Soviet Union?
I would encourage everyone to get the microphones. I know we haven't been used to it, but to get the microphones closer to you when you're talking.
You, Peter.
And watch your papers.
Watch my papers. Roughly.
So when you go to speak, do you have to hold down,
Nope.
push?
No,
No.
if you,
They're on.
That's
all the time.
actually a mute, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That-
Pushing down mutes it.
That's the mute button?
Yeah.
You
Okay.
need to sneeze.
Oh,
Is it muted forever?
No,
no, you have to hold it.
Put my cell phone on there. You should bring something really heavy and put it on it. I can't see this. There we go.
Ooh,
What was that?
never heard that before.
Yeah,
It
that's a
says
new
this
feature.
meeting is being recorded.
That's a new feature.
I think the law probably requires that. New Hampshire, anyway.
hello.
That's how we do
Good, how are you?
Bruce.
Wow.
I know. It's on virtual.
Hi. You must be Mr. McMillan.
Mr. McWilliam.
McWilliam, yes, so sorry. Pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Mr. Burnett.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You too, even.
Schwartz.
Schwartz. Yeah, I'm gonna call you Schwartz the whole meeting. We'll be in the minutes. So now we're just waiting for Charlie to call in.
He's gonna be on Zoom.
Yeah. Call in,
He on?
zoom in.
He is?
He's on?
Phone.
No, it's on Zoom. Can we,
Let's make sure he's there so we don't hold up the roll call.
why is it?
I probably should give my phone to, come to think of it. Don't forget to mute your phones, everybody. Okay. Time I learn to use a phone, I have to get a new one. I'll get it. Hello, how are you?
I've been
Saying hi, Charlie.
No.
Glad to hear it. Oh, this damn chair, every time. Dean comes in here early and makes sure that the chair is all the way down, so.
Just yours.
I walked
I know,
into it.
yeah.
Just
Just these little digs. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Laconia Planning Board. My name is Peter Burnett. I am the chair. I have a couple of things I should read. I'll find them. There we go. Tonight, we are both live and on Zoom. This meeting will be held in person. We will have a quorum here in this room. And in conformance with New Hampshire RSA 91A, the quorum must be physically present in the meeting room for the meeting to start or to continue. While there is a physical location to observe and listen to this meeting, the meeting is also being transmitted electronically. The public can choose to attend and participate in person or by Zoom. However, if something occurs that disables access to Zoom, the meeting will continue regardless, and members of the public or board members using Zoom will have no recourse. Choosing to use Zoom is done at the individual's risk. Using Zoom requires the use of a Zoom-enabled device. If you wish to participate on Zoom, the webinar ID is 811-9007-4174. And if you want to just listen only on your phone while you're driving to your night course at Harvard, it's 1-646-558-8656. All votes that are going to be taken during this meeting will be done by a roll call. So speaking of roll call, I'm going to ask Ms. Graham to take the roll of the members in attendance.
Scott McWilliam,
Present.
Susan Hodgkins,
Present.
Bruce Cheney,
Present.
Rich McNeil,
Present.
Stacy Susie,
Here.
Brett Beliveau,
Here.
Peter Burnett,
Present, accounted for.
and Charlie St. Clair.
Charlie St. Clair.
I'm here.
Good evening,
I am
Charlie.
here. Good evening. Good evening.
Good to see you. And from the planning staff, we have the director, Mr. Trefethan. Ms. Graham is running the show. This is Mr. Delavecchia. Hello.
My tardiness, please.
Oh, that's okay. Instantly excused. And Rob Moore over there, who's our online guru. Let's see. What's the first thing we need to do here? Have you all had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Any additions or suggestions for changes? Sensing none, I'll declare the minutes accepted from the May 4th meeting. No, that's the June
1st.
June 1st it was, indeed. All right. So now we're going to have a presentation regarding indoor storage in the CR zone, brought to you by our Director of Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Dean Trefethan.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Nice to see all of you in one room for a
Been a while.
change. Except for you, Charlie, of course. A little bit of background on this proposal. The commercial resort district has been the issue, has seen the issue of the indoor storage discussed multiple times over the past several years. Several years ago, there was a couple of proposals for indoor storage, a couple of big box buildings, met with a lot of opposition. They were voted down, and in the course of that going on and shortly thereafter, before my time, but my understanding of this is how the events unfolded, that there were changes in the zoning district and the table of use to prohibit indoor storage self-service in the CR district. From staff's standpoint, and we've been dealing with this over the past couple of years, that while this prohibition is probably well-intended, it is contradictory. The table of permitted uses in the CR district does allow outdoor storage of most things. There's a couple of exceptions. And watercraft indoor storage is permitted with the CUP, plus outdoor storage of boats and campers. The paradox is that we allow outdoor storage of potentially unsightly things, but not a building to put them in, which from staff's standpoint, we feel it would be more aesthetically pleasing to have some buildings and the stuff inside the buildings as opposed to a row of boats and trailers and whatever lined up along the road.
You've seen
particularly-
my neighborhood.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly, yes.
We have the building and the
Lakeport
outdoor.
Landing, no exception, but they all seem to have the big bright blue tarps on them for 6 months out of the year. They're always pleasant to look at. And then, the idea was that the proposed buildings that got all the attention of several years ago were they in themselves rather unsightly. They were the traditional, and I hate to use brand names, but the traditional U-Haul big box storage building with the orange garages and et cetera. Again, not what we want to be looking at in the CR district, which is the Weirs and Weirs Boulevard. We've had several property owners over the past couple of years, as you can well imagine, that have inquired about the possibilities of indoor storage. And once they hear what the regulations are and what the process would be, they're go away. And maybe that's for the better, but that's for us to decide. And at least one property owner has sought a variance which was denied. And the reason it was denied basically was because the zoning board felt that this issue had just fairly recently been aired and decided by planning board and city council that we did not want to have the indoor storage in that area. So that was the reason that one of the major stated reasons why they were denied. So what we are proposing to you tonight is to allow indoor storage self-service but do it in an architecturally pleasing 1 to 2 story structure that is either not visible from the main roads, i.e. Endicott Street North, Watson Road, maybe part of Roller Coaster Road, Scenic Road, Centenary, etc., or screened with vegetation and or fences, whatever is appropriate, so that you're not seeing the building. And at the same time, we are envisioning a requirement to have a building that would have pitched roofs, appropriate siding treatment, either something that is clapboards or looks like clapboards or looks like cedar shakes, although it may be vinyl, but it looks like from, the 50-foot smell test type thing, and earth tone colors, the nice browns, beiges, forest greens, etc. No big boxes, no orange garage doors, etc.
Where were you when they built that building at the end of my street?
Well, no orange doors though.
I know.
So that's what we're proposing to you, and we would like to get your feedback on the idea. And if consensus of the board is, yes, this is something we think you should pursue, then we will work out the language of the definition, if it needs to change, for indoor self-storage, and also come up with the requirements that would mandate the architectural details of these buildings and the screening. We will come up with all that language, come back to you possibly as early as next month with a proposal that you can vote on to refer to a public hearing if you so desire. And I just briefly want to, review the definitions, outdoor storage, the keeping in an unenclosed area of any goods, junk, material, or merchandise in the same place for more than 24 hours. Again, I want to reiterate, we allow this in the CR zone now, and we have some properties along Endicott Street North that are either doing it now or have been approved to do it. And Watercraft storage facility, which provides storage for watercraft and equipment and is not generally accessible on a regular basis by the general public. So this would be the buildings that the marinas run. Some of them run a concierge service, but primarily this is used for winter storage. You take your boat out of the water in October or the end of September, you put it in the storage building, it stays there. You don't go there during the winter, and then sometime in the spring, they take it out of the building for you and you put it back in the water. So some mixture of that is what we're looking to allow. And the other possibility here that goes with this is that maybe we want to do something about outdoor storage in the CR district and encourage things to go into aesthetically pleasing buildings.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because if I heard you right, you're saying the screening would only be a requirement for indoor storage.
Right. And we certainly could change the ordinance to include any storage of any kind to get the proper screening, fencing, et cetera. But, we might want to go that next step further and encourage these things to move indoors, as opposed to, the other advantage to this is that there is, a higher tax bill, obviously, for a building as opposed to a piece of ground that's just gravel with stuff on it 6 months out of the year, and the rest of the time it sits there, except for motorcycle week, of course, sits there empty. It might be better to have a building that's worth some dollars as opposed to a vacant lot that is generating an income 6 months out of the year.
Okay, this would be self-storage only, right? This applies to, it wouldn't apply to the concierge service or the valet service?
Yeah, that's already allowed now with a CUP, which obviously comes to the planning board. Yeah, the intention here is for the self-storage units that people would put their own boat into, put their own camper into, those kinds of things. The demand is, although I'm sure some people will use it for junk or odds and ends or whatever, The demand really is for boats and campers because people, when the camping season's over or the boating season's over, they don't want to take them home because they may be in a situation like we are in Laconia as well, where we have some very severe restrictions about where you can put your trailers on your lot. And so they would rather just put them into storage somewhere, and indoors preferable because then your highly valuable camper or boat is not exposed to the elements.
If there are existing uses, they'd be grandfathered, wouldn't they?
They would be, yes.
So anybody what about if it's seasonal? If they removed the boat this spring, intend to put it back in the fall, and in the meantime, we change the ordinance, but is that grandfather?
They would still be grandfathered
Okay.
as long as they're doing it.
They can show a history of
Exactly,
continuous use. Okay.
exactly. Yep.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Trefethan? Okay. Well, thank you. So what do you need from us tonight?
I would like direction from the board, simple consensus, don't have to take a formal vote. If somebody objects, maybe voice that, or just so we can proceed to the next step, which is crafting the language.
And that's where the devil's going to be in those details, because if you're adding an aesthetic evaluation, we got to have standards for that.
Yes.
This comes up occasionally in other
Right.
areas.
We're going to try to make it as simple as possible. We're going to, I think the way to do it is to specify that it needs to either be or look like clapboards or shingles. And like I said, I don't care whether they're real or whether they're the vinyl imitation, because when you're 50, 100 feet away, it all looks the same. The vinyl may hold up better, maintenance wise over the course of years than real wood that's been painted or stained, but, and pitched roofs with, doesn't have to be asphalt shingles, but, to try to get away from that, again, that standard box that you see on the side of the road and in other places, that it looks like a storage unit, and it is a storage unit, and it's a storage unit as soon as you drive by.
Right. Right. Well, any other
Talking
members of the
just
board?
about residential use, not commercial.
No, this would
Or
be
both.
commercial.
This would be commercial use.
Yes, this would be commercial use. Yeah.
So this wouldn't apply to the family from Brockton that comes up and brings their boat in the spring and puts it in the driveway?
We do already have an ordinance for that. You cannot have a trailer in your driveway or your front yard. It needs to be in the rear yard or on the side yard in some type of a covering.
That's the existing.
That's the existing
requirement.
ordinance. Yeah.
Any other questions for Dean?
Yes.
Yes, Stacy.
Would it be possible to have the Conservation Commission weigh in on it? Only because when you say the elements, I'm thinking of the loss of pervious surface.
Sure. Certainly any proposed building that is adjacent to any wetland or wetland buffer would need to do that.
I was thinking more of the strain on the current stormwater treatments. If there are that many buildings that would suddenly pop up everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to get inundated, but I would see a few for sure. Some of those items can be taken care of with site plan review in terms of they got to create a detention pond or something to treat their stormwater. The one property that came up that was denied a variance on would definitely need to go to Conservation Commission because of its proximity to a wetland. But some properties may not. So, I mean, we certainly.
Still have to go through you guys.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh, absolutely. They would all require a
okay,
site
got it.
plan. Yeah, they would all require a site plan. They would all, stormwater is the number one issue we have with almost all applications now. All the good land's gone. What's left is the land that 20 years ago said, nobody said you could build on the, everybody thought, you can't build on that piece of land. Well, guess what? Yes, you can. May not be a great idea, but you can with the proper procedures. Yep.
Densities change over time.
Technologies change to allow
Yes.
you to do things that you couldn't do before.
That's true.
Yeah.
Bruce, did you have a question?
I have a statement. I, like others around this table, was here when we went through the wars, as it were. And I'm sure many people remember where one of the premier pieces of property was up near Cumberland Farms in the Weirs.
Yep.
With a gorgeous piece that looks out over the lake.
It looks like a meadow from The Sound of Music now.
It does.
We've got so much rain.
And I think to poke that snake with a stick again, I don't know that that's advisable. I see, I'm not sure how you build a storage unit that doesn't look like a storage unit, to be perfectly frank, from my perspective. So my leaning, barring some amazing word crafting on your part, it would be to oppose the idea of expanding storage buildings in CR. Let's remember that's residential and commercial, which pretty much defines the Weirs as much as anything.
Right.
So, you know, here we are trying to save an old house on Lakeside Ave. What we do if they decide they want to put storage in there, you know, just it disturbs me, and I want to make that point so that you're aware of how I feel about this particular.
Could I say something, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. St. Clair.
Thank you. This is very strange being out here. I just want to follow up on what Councilor Cheney just said, because he's absolutely right. And I hope, Dean, that if you go forward with this, that you revisit some of the comments that were made, not only by residents, but more importantly by the city council of that time. The thought of all of these buildings being put up for storage and kind of knocking out the property being used for anything else for the immediate future raised a lot of concerns then, and in my mind it would today too. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Stacy?
But it wouldn't be visible from the road, right? So
Well,
they-
I mean, I guess that's one of the things that we could try to craft in when we were having, or you were having the discussion, because I wasn't here, but when we were having the discussion previously, you know, one of the thoughts was to create this 200, 300 foot zone off of either side of, say, Endicott Street that you could not do this kind of activity in. But if you were in one of the lots a little further off the road where perhaps you wouldn't be able to see it from the road, that maybe that would work. That was one of the proposals. It was not adopted. And we certainly could consider something like that again.
You could have a setback from the center line of the road, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was the proposal, and I forget the exact number, but it was a couple hundred feet anyway, and it may have been something like 400 feet. And that's a possibility too. You know, the other thing is that I would, in this proposal, I would like to limit it to 2 stories to try to reduce that visual impact, and also reduce the, you know, the possibility of seeing it maybe from the road. If some of these off the road parcels were to do this, you know, and I'm very cognizant of the idea of highest and best use of property, and I agree the Sound of Music meadow at the top of the hill is not the place for it, and to some degree, I mean, that's where the planning board comes in. If someone were to come in and say, hey, we want to have, you know, storage there, you could say no and state your reasons why. I mean, it's a site plan and, you can say no to site plans. You may end up in court by saying no, but you can do that and you can defend yourself.
Well, good luck with that. I guess my concern is just that we are putting another restriction on people's private use of their real estate, basically. And I'm leery of any kind of a control that's based on a subjective view. And I don't know how you can, unless you actually specify the materials that are allowed and the distances involved, and you basically create a carve out on the dimensional table for it or something. I'd be concerned about that. The planning board shouldn't, first of all, be the final arbiter of architectural tastes, after all. That's very subjective. So, but thank you. So next meeting, perhaps you will have some language for us to.
If you so desire. If you do not desire, I won't take the time to do that.
Well, what is the pleasure of the board? Well, why don't we put it to a vote then? A roll call?
Need a motion.
Oh, somebody's got to make a motion. Bruce, do you want to make a motion by any chance?
A motion to see if we should go forward with his draft of a plan.
Okay, there's a motion in favor of drafting a new ordinance or an amendment to an existing ordinance regarding the indoor storage.
That's what I meant to say, yes.
That's what I thought. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Delvecchia. All right, any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Charlie, of course, Charlie.
Thank you. Dean, I would like to, rather than having this ready next month, I'd like to give us, say, 2 months so that we can talk to a lot of people. Not only the commercial zone itself, but other people. I mean, 4 weeks goes by pretty quick, especially this time of year. And I just would like to get a lot of feedback before you do a lot of work on this that may or may not be accepted.
Well, I agree with you, but we don't want to go too far out because we want the summer people to be here so that we can get their input.
Well, we could be talking to those people ourselves.
Yes.
Not just at a public hearing at the planning board meeting, but we can all go out as individuals and talk to people too, which I think a lot of us do. So that's just my thought.
I don't have any problem waiting until September, or this is not. I mean, we continually get requests, but this is not super urgent.
Would the maker care to amend the motion? To
Yes, whatever,
September,
what I meant to say.
the September meeting, on what date is that? September. Oh, I have a calendar right in front of me, for God's sake.
7th.
What?
Day after Labor Day.
Is it really? Well, there you go. The motion is till the day after Labor Day, the 7th.
I think believe she said the 7th.
The 7th, yes. All right. Any further discussion? All right, we're gonna have to do a roll call vote, please.
So they're not voting.
Correct.
Okay. So Bruce Cheney,
No,
Rich McNeil,
No.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
I'll say yes for discussion in September.
and Peter Burnett.
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion carries. We'll revisit the issue in September. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
And Dean, thank you very much. All right, we have some requests for extensions here tonight. The first one is PL 2015-0142 SP as amended. It's White Oaks Road, Paugus Woods Development. Request to extend the approval to the previous amendment, which was to remove lot 33 and allow for second access. Is the applicant here today, or the property owner? Anybody here? Is this, yes?
John's via Zoom.
Oh, he is in there, okay.
Says
Mr.
no.
Oki, is that what it is?
Yes.
I guess we'll hear from Mr. Oki as soon as we,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Hey, I'm on a Wi-Fi connection, so I'm not going to turn my thing on. I have a meeting in Wilton this evening also, so I'm in Wilton, New Hampshire for a ZBA meeting, but I'm doing this by Zoom. So, yeah, we're here this evening for an extension of the White Oaks Road project and also the Langley Cove project. What we've done recently is we have all 6 building permits for the final 6 houses in Paugus Woods, and I think they're staked out, and we're planning on breaking ground on those pretty quick here. And we've also made the application to the state of New Hampshire. It was like a $14,000 application fee that we made to the state of New Hampshire for the alteration of terrain permit. Luke Powell is working on the wetland permit for me. We're anticipating doing a wetland application and a shoreland application here shortly and getting all our final permits in place. We've already done a wildlife study on the project, and that's part of what was submitted to the state of New Hampshire. Jim Fougere Jim Fougere, he's a wildlife scientist, or whatever we call them, did that, and that's all part of what's been completed. And we've been in discussion with the City of Laconia Waterworks, and also planning has been part of this also. What we're going to do is, if you recall, part of the approval for Langley Cove was 1,900 feet of off-site water line that needed to be installed in Weirs Boulevard to replace like a cast iron section that the Waterworks has been having problems with. We're working on the contracts right now, and we're planning on installing that this fall. The idea is once we have the 1,900 feet of water line in, and we have all of our permits in place with the state, we anticipate maybe next spring doing the main entrance on Weirs Boulevard. And depending upon how things are going, doing the road all the way up to Paugus Woods. So that would basically open the door to Paugus Woods being able to be completed. And but if we had the water line installed, the water line connected to the Paugus Woods system, and the first entrance and the secondary entrance to Langley completed with some units up, we may be in a position to start talking about the project being vested. There would be several $1 million worth of infrastructure and units and roadway installed at that point. So we anticipate if all that comes together before June or July next summer, we may not even need to come back to you for an extension after this. But we're asking for a 1-year extension to kind of get the ball rolling on everything.
Well, thank you, John. The water line that's going to be replaced down on the boulevard, is that going to increase the capacity?
Nope, it doesn't. It does not increase capacity. It's not even connected directly to the Langley Cove project. It's down by St. Moritz area, and what it is there's a couple sections of pipe in Weirs Boulevard right now that are cast iron, and when the Waterworks pushes water to the Weirs tank, it springs leaks, and by replacing the cast iron section, what it does is makes it more bulletproof to being able to push water to the Weirs tank.
Is there city water on White Oaks?
Not on White Oaks, no. The White Oaks project, or the Paugus Woods project,
Yes.
gets water from a connection in Weirs Boulevard, and it goes uphill to a pump station in Paugus Woods. It's the kind of the sister station to the Evergreens pump station.
Okay.
They're built basically exactly the same.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Oki. Excuse me. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Oki regarding the extension request? Sensing none, Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay. Don't apologize.
John, I was looking over the reason for request, and is it possible to have actual dates instead of like this fall or early
Well,
spring?
The water line has, because of the original approvals, the water line has to be done outside of, has to be done after Labor Day or before Memorial Day. And obviously trying to do it before Memorial Day, you'd be up against an extreme deadline to be done and out of Weirs Boulevard. But doing it from after Labor Day and going into about November, I mean, we can pretty easily accomplish it. We don't have a schedule set up with Waterworks yet because I believe they're going to try to piggyback on a little bit and do some of their own improvements at the same time this is going on. But it'll be between Labor Day and November.
Okay, got you. Thank
And
you.
I can't say exactly what we're doing with the on-site improvements because we're actively getting permits. Like we have a good ANHB report. We have a wildlife study done. The application for alteration of terrain has been made, but we're waiting for comments and we'll have to go through that whole process. So if we had all of our permits done and in place right now, it would be easier to define dates, but we're working our way through that right now. And they've been made. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying that we're going to be making applications. I mean, the applications are made. So
What did you say the fee was for the terrain permit?
14,000 something just for the application fee.
How do they calculate that? Is it based on the size or?
Yep, it's based on disturbance, the total area disturbed, and I don't know if you guys realize this, but in 2019, fall of 2019, they had a price increase at DES of 250%. They increased the application fees by 250%.
Well, aren't we glad the city didn't do that?
Yep.
We didn't do that, did we, Dean?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did.
No,
I stand
so it's
corrected.
it is for the smaller permits, it's it's not, I mean, it doesn't kill things, but for the larger projects, I mean, the developers are really having to put up a lot of money for reviews.
Okay, so not for nothing, but what about the materials costs? Because I know we've had extension requests
Yep.
this season from people that just said that the cost of the materials is through the roof.
Dean can attest that we have built 24 houses in Lilac this year. Basically every house in Lilac has been built by Brady Sullivan, and we're building the final road, and they're planning on building every single one of those units this year if we get the road in. And they're also building the 6 houses in Paugus. Basically, there's absolutely nothing at all to rent anywhere. And what they've been doing is building everything out and doing rentals as of right now.
Yes, there is quite a need.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Roki? Would anyone care to make a motion regarding the extension request? We need 2 motions.
August Woods and Langley.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, could
Mr.
we
St.
hear
Clair.
from the staff if there's any issues with them on this?
Are there any issues?
There are no issues. Mr. Roki has accurately summarized what's been going on. We have had multiple discussions with John and the rest of the team over the past few months. The building permits have been issued for the Paugus Wood subdivision. And I don't believe they have started them yet, but they have been issued. And I was part of the meeting that we had with the water department to talk about the water line installation. There are no issues from water department standpoint to prevent this from happening this fall. And they just need to sign the documents and provide the site security money and those kinds of things, but which they are totally aware of, and that is not an issue.
That'll be done off-season, I would imagine.
Yeah, it'll be after the Labor Day and before the snow flies.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the extension for PL 2015-0142 SP amendment and also PL 2011-0024 SP 0026 CUP 0027 CUP 2015-0141 SU 2018-0023 SU for Langley Cove and Paugus Woods, and we're extending that. I believe the paperwork says to July 7th, 2023.
That's what we call an omnibus motion.
22, should be 22.
22?
Yeah, we can only do it 1 year.
This says current date 2022, proposed date 2023.
Very interesting.
That should be 21 and 22.
Okay, so we're going to correct that motion. The extension is to July 7th, 2022. The rest of it stands.
Okay. Yeah, we wouldn't make you repeat that one. Thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Belleville's motion?
I'll second that.
All right, second by Mr. McNeil. Any further discussion?
Before you vote, Mr. Chair, I
Sure.
just want to point out that you have
Oh,
7
yes.
regular members, so the 2 alternates could be full voting members tonight, if you so desire.
Oh, well, let the record reflect that I was remiss in my responsibilities in acknowledging our 2 newest members of the planning board. You will be voting members this evening.
So, Mr. Chair, before you vote, again, so all 3 of those extensions are on this vote, correct?
Two.
2 are on there. And I just want to, I just want to hear from the staff. So we're good on the second one too? You just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion regarding?
Nobody from White Oaks here?
We don't usually, we're not doing a public hearing. We never do.
Not for extension.
We don't do a
For
public hearing on the
extensions.
extensions. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. May we have a roll call, please?
So Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
No.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes,
Peter Burnett.
Yes. Well, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yes, goodbye, John. Thank you. All right. Looks like we're at Providence Street, 7.3, the PO 2018-0071 SP and 0074 CUP. It's wetland conditional use permit. The property is located at 174 Providence Street, and it's owned by the Grace Presbyterian Church. A request to extend the approval to construct a 3,028 square foot addition and 32 parking spaces. When was that originally approved, do you recall? Was it last year or the year before?
Year before.
Yeah, so this would be their second request for extension, right? Is there someone here, either, oh, yes, okay. So we don't have to go to Zoom land. Good evening, just state your name and let us know what you.
My name is Michael Bemis. Worked for a long time for Stephen Smith and Associates, who had done the site plan that got approved originally. And the approval was for an addition to the building and the parking lot. and which included also a lot of erosion control measures, because when the original church was built, there wasn't much that was required at the time. So this time around is more extensive, that will cover, all the coverage and drainage issues. So we got that approval, and we've been in the process of trying to come up with the funding, and between workloads, funding, and material increases that you mentioned earlier and so forth, we're getting closer to our goal of going ahead and pursuing this, but we're not quite there. So would ask for an extension for another year, and hopefully.
Are there any significant changes occurred on the property since you were last with us?
No.
Are there any questions for the applicant or members of the board? All right, sensing none. What is staff? Yeah,
Good to go.
good to go. All right. Would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we grant the extension for PL 2018-007 1SD 0074 CUP for a period of 1 year. As said.
All right, and is there a second?
I'll second that.
The date, the date certain is, I don't have 2022.
July 7th. I believe.
July 7th, we've already covered that, right? 7/7. Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes,
Peter Burnett.
Yes. It's unanimous, the motion carries. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Plan revisions from, I wanted to ask about this one. Is it, they're just asking for an extension to August?
Yes.
So it's not a full year? Okay. PL 2021-27SU, that's 23 Summit Avenue. It's a request to extend a subdivision, basically. Subdivide one lot into two. They are asking for plan revisions to be in by August 3rd, 2021, and as well as, let's see, and the Mylar extended out to September 7th, 2021. Okay, so I understand it. They're basically just asking for a month, right? Extension there where it's staggered anyway. All right, well, staff, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I know they've been working on this. I think you can,
Yeah, I'm here, Talk Belsky. Yeah.
go ahead. The applicant's here.
Okay.
Zoom? He's on Zoom.
Oh, he's on Zoom. Well,
Yeah.
please, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, no, yeah, we've been working with an attorney and our surveyor. Our surveyor got bogged down. I think he's been extremely busy. So he's about a couple months behind. So he expected to have the completed plans by the end of the month. So I wanted to push it back a month, everything back a month from there. We're applying the DES for the subdivision and the shoreline permit in the next week or so. And then we should be right back on track.
Are you sure that's all you need is a month?
Looking
There's
at it,
bureaucracy
yeah.
involved in all this.
I know. I know. I mean, we could ask, I don't know what the process was. I just assumed this will push it back a month, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if
2 months. Yep.
come August, you haven't met the first deadline, you'll be back asking for another extension.
Yeah. I guess is there a harm if I push it back for 2 months and finish earlier than that? I guess
I
there's
don't
no.
think staff would have any objection to that.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so let me get these dates right here.
Yep.
So it would be September 7th would be the first date.
Mhm.
And then October 5th for the Mylar, right?
Yep.
Okay. So would anyone care to make this motion?
I'll make a motion to extend PL 2021-0027 SU 23 Summit Ave to the dates of September 7th and the Mylar for October 5th.
Is a motion made? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, the motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes,
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, it's unanimous. It passes. And good luck to you, sir.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Good night.
The price of lumber,
Hopefully come down.
and then we'll get complaints from the people in the lumber industry. Anyway, continued public hearings. PL 2021-0045 SB 0046 SU. It's 109 Weirs Boulevard, a proposal to redevelop the property. There are waiver requests for lighting and landscaping. Would those be, each one of those be a motion? Lighting and landscaping? Separate issue or?
I think you can include it in the main motion.
Okay. All right, so this application was continued from our last meeting on June 1st. So we need a motion to take it off the table, I think, right? Didn't we table it? All right, would anyone just care to make a motion before we proceed? It was tabled at the last meeting, so we need a motion to take it off the table and hear it tonight.
So said.
Motion made by the secretary. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? All right, another roll call, please. Kalina?
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
yes,
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. The motion carries. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me back and good evening. My name is John Bisson. I'm here on behalf of 109 Weirs Boulevard, the owner Pista Properties LLC. Mr. Peter Grenier is in the back. He's a representative of Pista Properties LLC as well. And I'm told that Mr. Gita is joining us remotely, but I don't know that. So I have no evidence of that. So,
He said he might.
Oh,
May-
okay.
May not be able to.
okay. All right.
Actually, this is Ken Robinson here from Fieldstone. I'm joining on Chris's behalf.
Oh, good. Thank you, Ken.
There you go.
So if you have any technical questions for Ken, he's out there listening. So you should have the plan and have had the opportunity to see the plan. Essentially, it's a repurposing of an existing cottage development that's out there. It's a prior non-conforming use, already exists for the most part. We've been through technical review committee a couple of times, got some very valuable feedback from technical review, all of which I believe has been incorporated into this plan that you have in front of you now. Some of the things that were addressed as part of the technical review, pulling some of the structures out of the setback to make it sort of better conforming. There is an addition of a new structure. So what is proposed here is 12 condominium units. One of the units is in that existing house structure that's in the middle of the property. And it has storage space underneath that's not part of the condominium unit. So there aren't any waivers required for this application. The water and sewer are municipal. The water lines have been connected. This plan improves upon the drainage that's there by adding infiltration trenches around the structures so that the drainage is actually better than what exists there now. It meets the density requirements. There are absolutely no changes to the shoreland area with the exception of that square area that shown as a proposed square foot picnic area, and it's porous or pervious surface, crushed rock or substance like that there on the closest to the water. Everything else is already there and is as shown on the plan. Some of the other things that were addressed during technical review, the lighting was, became downcast to reduce light pollution. There's no signage on the property. And I think that's really it from a sort of a summary of what's there versus what's being proposed. Ken, do you have anything to add?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Thank you.
This is one of those lots that is bisected by the right of way for the boulevard, right?
That is correct. So there's this sort of beach area on one side of the boulevard and the cottage structures on the other side of the boulevard.
Do you know there was a cow tunnel? Have you ever heard of the cow tunnel, Dean?
I have heard of the cow tunnel, but I don't believe it was at this location.
Well, I'm not sure if I ever found it or if anyone ever did. And I was told there were actually two. But anyway.
And this would be for the cow traffic
Yeah.
to go to the lake?
They'll have to go overland. They don't
Interesting.
whatever. Yeah.
I
tunnel.
believe that was closer to Christmas Island.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing people don't realize when driving down the boulevard. If you were driving down that boulevard 100 years ago, there wouldn't be a tree in sight. It was clear cut as far as you could see.
Pasture.
So,
Well, I should point out as well that this is a condo. So typical of most condos, it will have a pet restriction and cows will not be allowed.
cows will not be. Well, I don't think the city's ordinances would allow that either. They won't. They wouldn't let a little girl have a chicken a few years ago, if I remember correctly. So, all right, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
I believe this is the one that has the well that needed to be taken care of. Did that
That
get
has
shut
been
off?
addressed.
It has, yeah, we
Yes.
tied in a new water line to the building and we decommissioned the well that's existing.
Okay,
So
perfect.
That has been addressed.
And the town has inspected it as well.
Okay, great.
All right, great. Okay, well.
Peter, Peter?
Yes.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
and Thank you for taking it. I'm just, again, I'm concerned about trying to read it here. It looks like number 12, that's the building there that's going to be added. Is that correct?
It's at the bottom corner of the property. That is unit 12, correct?
And so I guess my question there is the setbacks there. Those are, is the fence going to go right along that building or am I not seeing that? Or how far between that building and the fence that's going up?
The building itself is outside of the setback.
Okay.
And then
And the fence, is the fence going to go right along the actual boundary line or is that going to go in a little bit?
it is going to cross into the setback, right? But not across the boundary.
Right.
Yes. So it is going to cross into the setback, but not across the boundary. The fence is.
And again, how tall will that building be?
I believe the building or the fence?
The building.
Building's gonna be between 16 and 18 feet.
Between 16 and 18 feet tall. And the fence is 6 feet, right?
6 feet.
So
Is that-
tell me, so up to 18 feet tall, so it's like a story and a half or two
About-
stories?
Yes.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Representative St. Clair?
It does, thank you.
All right. So we're going to open the public hearing now at 7:28 PM. Are there any abutters here that would like to be heard? Please come on up and it's like the Price is Right. Come on in and sign up.
Yeah, hi. My name's Harold LaValle. I'm representing my parents. They couldn't be here tonight or the lawyer representing them. So I thought I'd come down and just say a few words about it.
Was that your mom that we met at
I
the
believe
last
it
meeting?
was.
Oh, okay, please proceed.
Yes. So my parents, they had the purchase and sale done for the land and the house, the cottages, and the boat slips. They were never told that they were going to add any more to that. They were basically told that the cottages were going to be replaced on the original footprints on the property. And now we're finding this out that they're adding an extra cottage in, it's blocking their view. They're a little upset about it. They wanted to come down and say something about it. They don't like the docks still hanging up in the air. The property wasn't kept up for a few months, so, they had said something, and then the land was clear cut the grass and all that. I mean, they've been taking care of that property for over 40 years, so.
And they retained a parcel that
Correct.
abuts it to the south?
I believe so, yes, yeah.
All right.
So there's a house and two smaller houses behind the piece that they have now.
What's their primary concern? Is
Well,
it the view
the
or?
one concern is the blocking of the view, the drainage of the area. They're concerned with that, and they just didn't know that was going to happen, like the way it's going right now. They were promised a fence that hasn't gone up yet. They were promised a little bit. I think there was a dispute about the well at one point, which I believe it's still they own that well, and I think that's basically what they wanted to just state.
Could we have the applicant's representative address the drainage question? You're talking about like storm drainage, right?
Correct.
Right.
There is a drainage going under the road there, but I don't know if that's adequate.
Well, they would have to have included that in the site plan. So what does the applicant say on the stormwater drainage?
It's actually improved over what's there now, as I reported before. And Ken may have some further comment, but if you look at the plan, there's infiltration trenches around all the structures that don't currently exist. So it's capturing the runoff from the structures, such that the runoff going towards Weirs Boulevard is less. The drainage is improved over what is there now. If I may also address the issue of the view, the view from the abutter's home to the Weirs is across Weirs is sort of this way, and the new structure is over there. So it's difficult for me to visualize how it's impeding the view. Yes, it is a new structure, but it doesn't fall between the lake and the structure that we're talking about, but view is subjective.
That's always about point of
Right.
view, man.
And the fence also, it has not gone up yet, but it is shown on the plan and it is part of the plan. So, but specifically with respect to drainage, according to the calcs and the engineering and the design that's gone into it, it is an improvement over what's there.
Will any of the drainage end up on
It should not.
the abutter's property?
No, it's all getting directed to those ponds and retention basins that are on the property that you can see.
And then ultimately to catch basins?
Correct.
All right.
Could I ask where the ponds are going to be?
They're shown on the plan as those hashed areas. Do you have the plan?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was concerned.
Yeah, this is the newest, so you do not. And this is
just said
not
they put
drainage,
swales
this is
up for
buffer
that, right?
wetlands
These are
Oh, I
required.
swales,
realize
right?
that. Yeah, the road, there was a driveway also that
That's
was,
been cut off or will be cut off.
well, the driveway will be cut off with the fence line, and there was a new driveway proposed that we don't know what's going to happen with that yet.
That's gone. So if we look at the plan, there is now a, where it says the line will be restored. So that also will contribute to lessening the drainage problem, because there's now, right now it's pavement between what's shown as unit, I can't see it, unit 7 and this gentleman's parents' property. There's going to be a landscape area reinstalled there with grass, and which will help not direct drainage towards that property.
Yeah, the property, I mean, the property goes right up the middle of the driveway. Unfortunately, my dad wanted to move it at one point, but at this point in time, it's way too late to even, to look at that. But
So
the
this
issue
is
is as they don't have the driveway, there's nothing marked on there. There's nothing stating about the construction of the driveway or the fence, and they're a little concerned about that. And now with the addition of the cottage, they're just thinking they're getting closed in, and that's why they, wanted somebody to come down and talk about it.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think the applicant has answered, I think, all your questions so far. If any others occur to you before we close the public hearing, let us know. Are there any other members of the public or abutters that would wish to be heard?
I have a question.
Sure, come on up.
We were looking at the plan.
Could you
and
say your name for the record,
This,
please?
I'm Judy LaValle.
Hi,
I'm their
Judy.
daughter-in-law. Where the new proposed cottage sits, it looks like it's very close to the road and to the property line. So we were wondering what the rule is as far as how far it needs to be from the road and from the property line.
I think the quick answer is there's setbacks on both. There's a front setback and a side setback. So, and I think I heard the applicant say the only thing that's going to be in the setback area would be the fence.
This little part of the
Okay.
fence. This is the structure.
Because we could sort of see where the structure is going to be, and it
Right.
just appears to be very close to the road.
Right.
Where
Yeah,
it doesn't
so
appear to be
the fence is
safe.
balanced. If you look at the property, it's a little bit further on this end from the road than at the top.
Right,
Just-
there's nothing around, that's cottage number
This
9
sits
he's
up on
talking
the hill
about.
a
There's
little
really,
bit.
and that sits up on a hill. There's really nothing around that. There's no,
And this one is
other
going
house right
to
there.
sit kind of down in a groove right near the road.
Mhm.
And it's not really going to be the big house, but there are two structures up at the top that it may impede the view. And that's
Will
what they're
impede the view.
concerned. There's two that sit further up on the hill that they still own. And
You're talking
that's
about
what they're
your
concerned.
in-laws' property.
Yes,
They sold the lot to the developer, right?
right.
Okay.
But this, his point was, this wasn't on the original plan. And his parents didn't, what they approved was the original footprints, not
Okay.
this new one.
So specifically then, what do your in-laws object to?
Just that new structure going in, the height that it may impede their view, and that it's, sits too close to their property line.
Okay, it's about the new
It's the
added
new structure, right.
Okay.
They know that everything else has been signed, was in the purchase order. And when they spoke to the lawyer, he said that part wasn't approved.
Okay.
The new structure.
they had also got a verbal that there was going to be a height restriction, like they wouldn't go any higher than the original cottages.
Right.
And then as they went through the purchase and sale, it was taken off the table. So, they're just a little concerned about everything.
No, I understand that. And I'm not to disparage their concern, but some of this is contractual between, them and the developer, the buyer. And unless there's something in the deed that puts a restriction on such things, I think that's the way it is. Did you want to add something?
But just, if I could briefly, the purchase and sale agreement was negotiated between the parties, and there were no restrictions or covenants made in that negotiation about limiting the number of cottages that could be there or the height of the structure. That notwithstanding, the applicant is doing everything that makes sense to improve the aesthetic, to improve the drainage, to sort of be a good neighbor, adding in the landscape buffer between the developing property and their property. Yes, it's true, I suppose, that those two structures in the back may see this structure, but one of them is directly behind several of the existing cottages.
Right.
And the other one is kind of sort of behind it, not as much, but certainly. So yes, the view is subjective, and I'm not here to suggest that, we should just put up whatever we want.
Well, I think they're saying that there was some oral statements made that.
But
Yeah.
my point is that those statements were made, but they were negotiated as part of the agreement, and the applicant expressly stated that we're not going to agree to covenants with respect to the property
Okay,
in the purchase and sale agreement, and the sellers were represented by counsel.
okay. Well, thank you very much.
Is there a timeline for when they could, is there a timeline for putting the driveway in? and fence? When, how long do they have?
There will be a completion date if we do approve it. If they get a conditional use permit, there'll be a completion date. And if they're not done by that date, then they come back, as several have done tonight, and ask for an extension. But what you're thinking is that there's another bite at the apple down the road. I don't think that's gonna happen. This is the public hearing. And as far as your parents' objections, I get that, but the old saying is that an oral contract is for real estate ain't worth the paper it's written on, So anyway, are there any other members of the public that would like to be heard? All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:40, and we'll hear from staff on this one.
Thank you. A couple of comments. I did go out to the site a couple of weeks ago. There was a question at the last meeting concerning a couple of aspects, and I met with a representative of the developer, and they had discussed some trees that they were going to remove. They are in the vicinity of the 3 cottages on the north side of the property that they are demolishing and then taking out of the setback and rebuilding so that they're not in the setback, and there are some trees there. But all of the trees that are along the road, most of them are mature, will remain. They will be trimmed and limbed a little bit they got some dead branches on them, et cetera, so they will be trimmed, but they will remain. There is a construction fence up already delineating. It's not right on the property line. It is on the developer's property. As you may recall, the fence that is going to be constructed was requested by the abutter at the last meeting. Now there seems to be some indication that they feel it's blocking them in, but they requested that fence. I do want to address the elevation, and I'm not wanting to make the case for the developer, but the new cottage is at approximately 520 feet. The existing cottages to the rear of the abutter property is at approximately 536, which is 16 feet difference. That's just ground level. As was stated, yes, those cottages could probably see this new structure, but probably does not block their view. What would block their view from that height would be the trees that are along the street, which are going to remain. They would be looking at the canopy of those, which many of them are pines. And we have a commitment from the developer to construct the portion of a driveway on the abutter's property, because the property line does bisect the existing pavement. That is part of the plan. That is something that we will be holding them to if you decide to approve this. From a recommendation standpoint, we do not have any unusual requirements or concerns. These are, pretty standard boilerplate requirements that we have on almost all plans.
Specifically, it says under conditions that the trees along the road are to be maintained.
They are.
As a minimum to meet city street tree requirements, so they.
Yes.
Okay.
There are a number of trees there now. They're going to remain. As I said, they may be trimmed, dead branches, et cetera, but they will remain.
All right. Any questions for staff or members of the board? Any other questions?
I have a concern.
Sure.
My concern is that and this gets into something legal, and I'm just voicing my opinion here as to what I've heard tonight and from the abutters. You want to come back up? I really love that. I feel like your parents were led to believe these things, and something happened along the way. Even though they were represented by counsel, something happened along the way where it sounds like they got confused.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand the scope of what the outcome would be. And that concerns me. I am sorry that's happened to them. And I just want you to know that. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Can I just address that? though?
Sure.
Um,
Then Charlie.
Please don't believe it so just because it was stated here. The applicant did not take advantage of these people. Because they've sent their child to speak for them, I'm not suggesting that they're saying a mistruth. What I'm saying is the applicant did not take advantage of these people. It was all put on the table.
I'm not saying that the applicant took advantage of these
No, but
people. I think the people were confused.
Well,
I just have that perception of what I've heard tonight.
Right, and the only thing I'm trying to say is that if you weren't involved in the negotiation, you shouldn't assume that they were confused, because all of this was discussed at length. And to come in now and say that they deserve an apology, I think it's suggesting that the applicant did something incorrectly. And I just want to go strongly to say that no one did anything to try and confuse these people into agreeing to something. They bargained hard for a fair dollar, and they didn't leave any pennies on the table. And this was all discussed. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
I believe Charlie St. Clair wanted to talk.
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes, thank you. Dean, couple of questions for you. The sidewalk's going to be put in, correct?
There's no sidewalk proposed. It's
Is-
not new development, so it's
Not
not
new development,
required.
so, okay, so it's not required. Marvelous. And the next question is, because I apologize, the map is off my screen right now. How far is that new cottage, number 12, going to be from the right-of-way, the city right-of-way along the street?
So
It's
it's
approximately
just a,
35 feet from the front property line.
35 feet from the right-of-way or from the side of the pavement, the edge of the pavement?
From the front property line, which is neither of those. It's their actual property line.
Okay, which is not the right-of-way, 35 feet. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I think all of the things that were discussed last month have been covered. It was pointed out that that one well has been disconnected and the city inspected that. The other thing was the privacy fence, but as I understood it last month, the developer agreed to that as a condition of this being approved. So there is a construction fence out there that vaguely delineates the where the fence will go. So that's something that doesn't need to happen now unless we approve it. I think all of those blocks have been checked. I just have a question about the waiver for the lighting and landscaping. So the lighting was changed and we're saying now it's all going to be down lighting. But what is the waiver for the landscape for? Is that because there's already existing?
The waiver is for creating a landscaping plan.
Oh, okay.
They will have landscaping.
Okay. Uh-oh, we still there?
It wasn't me. John, so my big concern was, I went out there last Friday when there was a big rainstorm and the watching the water pour down the driveway there. And it wasn't crossing into Weirs Boulevard. That was the big concern last month, why we had to table this. And it seems like you've addressed everything. So if there's no more comments or questions by the board, we can entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve PL 2021-0045 SP and 0046 SU 109 Weirs Boulevard with all the staff recommendations and to include the lighting and landscaping plan waiver.
Thank you, Brett. We're looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, John.
Rich.
Rich, sorry.
It's okay.
Roll call, please, Kalena.
We're going to have some discussion on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie. Let's discuss the motion a bit.
Well, I'm just curious if anybody has any more commentary before we vote on this, besides me. Okay, apparently not. I'm just really looking at the layout of this, that number 12 building. You know, I just think it's too much for that plan. I understand the developer. I think they've done a nice job on, you know, what they're going to be doing with the landscaping and the water, et cetera. And they're going to be upgrading the cabins that they keep, and that's all wonderful. But it just seems like that number 12 was kind of just stuck there. And I understand to undoubtedly help with the expenses of the cost of this project. But I think something better could be done with that. I certainly understand the concern of the neighbors, because I think having a building that close to their property, a new building there, will undoubtedly or potentially hurt the value of their property. Whether it's somebody thinks it's a view problem or it's just who I understand about the setback, but we know about setbacks. But I just think it's just a kind of a big building right there, really in their face. And I think something better could have been done with that, with this plan. And for that reason, that's why I'll be voting no on this plan as it sits. Thank you.
Any other discussion, members?
Can I just get clarification on what buildings the abutters' parents are currently occupying? I know you don't have a site plan in front of you. Is it?
The existing building all the way to the bottom, to the south, the large rectangle.
Okay, the rectangular building that says existing building?
Yes.
Is that's being occupied? Or is it the other two or all three?
I think they're living.
These three houses.
All three?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's, okay. I mean, these are Charlie's existing. Okay. structures. So does anybody else want to be heard? I understand we have a motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. Delvecchia, for covering for me for a minute. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, well, what's the pleasure of the board? We vote on it. Is that my phone? Never heard that sound.
Blame it on the phone.
I think it's the speaker.
I was gonna say, I didn't think I had a fart sound on there.
Okay, can we get to the vote?
I'm asking, I'm dying here. You gotta help me.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Oh, yes, roll call.
Brett Belliver,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchia,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins.
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
No.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. Motion carries. Good luck with this project.
Thank you very much.
Keep working with the neighbors.
That's what he
Best you can.
intends to do.
Communication is really important, so.
Thank you all.
Thank you, folks, for coming in and helping your parents out tonight. Okay, we are, let's see, Next item is 9.1, PL 2021-0084 SU, 56 Washington Street. It's a proposal to subdivide one lot into two. And we need a motion to accept the application before we do anything else. Is the application in order and ready for acceptance?
It is.
All right, would someone care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and accept the application for PL 2021-0084 SU for 56 Washington Street.
Motion made by Mr. Bellevue. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. May we have roll call?
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins.
Yes.
Scott McWilliams,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. The motion has been accepted. The application has been accepted. And let's hear from the applicant. Come on up.
Kind of new at this.
Well, I drove up there today and
Did
went
you?
around your block about
Yeah.
4 times and I couldn't find 56.
56 mile. Why? Yeah, 56 is why. It's right after the rectory. There's a church and
Yep.
parking lot and the rectory, and then my house.
Okay.
And the property's out in the back. Wait, I come up Fairmont Street and go up Madison Street, and it's right in that.
So,
after Madison
so the slope behind the old rectory that goes down Madison Street, is that this property upslope from that?
I wouldn't know. It comes down to the church parking lot down the end of it.
So the reason I'm saying that is I don't know, did he see this? Didn't we get an email about this property?
Yes.
Today?
Today.
What did I do with it? Wait a minute. Might as well just read it into the record, huh? If I can find it. Yeah.
You want my copy?
Yes, if you would.
Here's where it starts.
Okay.
It goes to the second side.
All right, so this was sent today at 2:00 in the afternoon. Dear Peter Burnett, Chair, and Michael Delvecchio, Secretary, please include this in the meeting this evening pertaining to the proposed subdividing and building on the property at 56 Washington Street. We have some concerns and questions as noted below. We currently receive a great amount of water runoff from this proposed subdivided property and also from Madison Street and the church parking lot. Removing of the vegetation on this property will make this problem worse. Improving the drainage in this area should be a requirement before approving any building plans and permits for this property. We are not totally sure, but believe there might be a non-operational drain on Madison Street that runs through this proposed property between 117 and 129 Franklin Street. Could this be checked into and fixed by the city? Question. Will the property being subdivided remain residential and any housing to be built meet all state and Laconia, City of Laconia building codes? Will the minimum lot frontage put a proposed housing too close to any adjacent property lines? And will this property only be for one single family housing? And it's signed Gilbert and Mary Gross, 117 Franklin Street. So they're definitely downsloped from you. So have you seen it? Did you see this
No,
email
no,
prior to
no.
today? Okay, so wouldn't be fair to have you respond, I think, off
No.
the top. But I wanted to get it on the record, and then maybe the discussion after your presentation will be able to take that into
I
consideration,
have
okay?
no idea that. I never heard anything about it or anything, you know.
All right, well, tell us about this lot and what you want to do with it.
I want to subdivide it. I want to, it's just sitting there doing nothing. So for all these years, and I got an easement from the church 10 years, 20 years ago, whatever it was. And and I brought it forth to the zoning board and I went through the zoning board and everything. Let's see, what else would I know?
What was the easement for, sir?
I don't know.
Access to the back?
The easement is for access to the rear of the property. It also includes the ability to put utilities in the easement.
This is undeveloped land that's pretty much at the end of Madison where it turns right. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could show you this with this help.
No, this one's actually very nice.
Oh, you got it right there.
So it's a long, narrow
Yeah.
lot, and then a square approximately double the width of that.
It's about 132 long and 128 deep, and 132 by 128.
Okay, and the easement is for access off the end of Madison. Okay, so that was clearly forethought. I mean, that was, otherwise this property would be landlocked, right? Yeah, okay. All right.
This is 117.
Okay, well, see, that's what I drove around that circles there. They were gonna call the cops on me there if I did another lap. Well, I do look suspicious, don't you think? Bruce?
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything, I don't, you wouldn't disparage me. Are there any questions for the gentleman? What do you intend to do with this lot? After
Put
you
it on-
subdivide,
put
you're
it
gonna
on-
sell it or are you gonna
To
build?
sell it. No, no, sell it. I imagine
You're gonna sell
they'll put
the
a house
lot.
on it. Yeah.
Okay. So whoever buys the lot would have to be subject to the requirements as far as dimensions and setbacks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, well, why don't we have a public hearing? I'm gonna open the public hearing at 8:01. Are there any abutters here that would like to be heard? Come right up to the microphone, sir. You can have a seat for the second if you'd like,
somebody-
sir. Or,
I'm sorry.
yeah, otherwise, we gotta get him on mic.
Gilbert Gross, and I'm the one that lives at 117 Franklin Street.
Well, I already read your thing.
I know. You took care of it for me. Appreciate that.
Okay, so your concerns are primarily runoff.
Right. It's mainly the drainage there.
So I drove up and rode around your neighborhood today. The first thing I noticed was that there is a catch basin at the low point of the parking lot between the rectory and the church that's filled with leaves and debris.
Right.
So it's not, that was all, it's clear, it was just rolling right over it. And I don't even know where that catch basin goes. But the streets all have catch basins on them, right?
Right.
All right. So you know the lay of the land better than anybody. Is this property like right above you?
Yes, it is.
All right.
It goes straight up from the back of our property line.
Okay. I can tell you that one thing that the planning board always, and the planning department always tries to do, in fact, we're required to do really, is to make sure that the development of a lot does not have an adverse effect on any abutting lots.
Okay.
So that means that whoever comes in here, hypothetically, who buys the lot and wishes to build on it, they will have to be in compliance with all the requirements for, as far as the site plan, drainage, setbacks, all that. There's not too much that we can do to put conditions on this particular subdivision because it's just to divide one lot into two.
Right, exactly.
See what I mean?
Yeah, we just wanted to bring our concerns to the board.
You could always buy it.
Yeah, if it's cheap enough.
Oh, whoa, here we go.
Here we go.
Go, do we have any dealing going on here tonight?
No.
I'm not an auctioneer, sir, so I really couldn't do that, but.
Yeah. And then there's some sort of drainage between the lot that's being subdivided and the gentleman's current property. It just seems to run straight down from Madison Street between 129 and 117. And before the street, we have a separate sewer, and then we have a sidewalk, and then there's another sewer. So there's something there, and there's a couple outlets that are broken that you can see if you walk the rock wall that's there.
Outlets, meaning the channels for water to run?
Right.
Yeah.
So something's there.
We received word before the meeting that Public Works had went out there and checked that out. And anything that's out there is not city, utilities. That's something that was done by a previous landowner to address drainage issues.
Were they referring to the storm drains on the, what used to be the
They're-
diocese property?
No, they're referring to what he's talking about, that kind of run straight from the end of Madison Street through the property.
All the way down, yeah.
All the way down.
Yeah. Okay. Did you have any other concerns other than that
Nope.
drainage?
That's it.
What's it like now? I mean, if you get a heavy rain, does water come onto your property?
Oh, yeah, in the springtime, it's solid water, not solid water, but it's a sponge with a lot of water that takes a long time to soak into the ground before they can do mowing of the grass.
Yeah.
So,
And this is literally coming into your backyard? Is that
Oh,
what
yeah.
you're saying?
oh, yeah.
And is it just in the spring or when there's an unusually heavy
Well, right
rain?
now, it's probably like a sponge with all the rain we've had the last week.
Right. Yeah, anybody that wants pictures of green landscapes, tomorrow would be a good day for that.
Right.
Any other concerns, sir, that we
No.
can address for you?
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other abutters here that would like to be heard? Or any members of the public that would like to be heard? All right, well, sensing none, Rob, there's nobody that wants to speak online, right? Oh, okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:05 PM. And we'll hear from the director.
So you have our recommendations. I just want to cover a few things here. Madison Street is not an accepted street. It is a public right-of-way. The DPW is already initiated the process to accept the street. They've been in contact with the people, the 4 properties that are currently fronting on Madison Street.
Yep.
And so that process is underway. At the end of the improved part of Madison Street, somewhere along the line, the church has erected a gate. My understanding is that the gate stays open all of the time. If we pass.
Where is the gate? Where the carport area
No,
is?
it's right where the pavement on Madison kind of ends.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
it's right there.
So it was a private way and somebody gated it at one point, but the gate is now.
It's the rear entrance to the parking lot, and apparently there was, at some point in time, a desire to control in and out, but.
I used to play dodgeball in that parking lot, buddy.
Well, that's why they did it.
You would
That's why they did it.
protect Peter. That's good. There is a 20-foot easement that runs along Mr. Boudreaux's property line. The easement, I've read the language of the easement. The easement allows egress, and it allows for the installation of all utilities. So the utilities would come off the end of Madison, water and sewer, and electrical and telephone, et cetera, would come off the end of Madison and go into this proposed new lot, and so would the driveway.
Yep.
We would require that the gate either be removed or moved further onto the church property so as not to impede on the easement that has been granted to Mr. Boudreaux.
Got it.
All right. You were correct about drainage. We will take care of that at the building permit process. When someone comes in to build on here, that will be one of the things that we will address in terms of erosion control and how the house will be built on the property. It does drop off there. There's no question.
It's steep, yeah.
It is steep. It is a single family lot. It would continue to be, it is a lot. I'm going to rephrase that. It is a lot. It will continue to be a lot when we do this subdivision. So therefore the steep slope ordinance does not apply because it's a single lot as opposed to a subdivision. But we still will have to take care of the slope and the drainage, et cetera, on this property at building permit time. It is zoned RG, which would allow a single-family home or a duplex by right. I want that to be clear to the board, as many of the lots on Madison, Washington, and whatever the cross street is, I forget. It's not Franklin.
Fairmont.
Fairmont, thank you, are zoned RG and could have duplexes and or, with a special exception, multi-family. And Mr. Boudreau is talking about he's making progress with his surveyor. And as you know, all the surveyors are busy, and our feeling was that this was such a simple property line. It's just going to be an extension right along as you've seen it.
Yep.
That it certainly represents what needs to occur, but obviously we will have a proper survey and everything registered at the registry before any building permits are allowed to occur.
Okay. All right. Is the rectory in use, the old rectory building, which is in the
Have no
northeast corner of, pardon me? Oh, okay. The evangelical church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Attached to the gym, the old rectory building.
Oh, that's across the street.
Right.
Right.
The big one, no, on the church parking lot, a big huge one, they use that as an administration place.
Oh, okay. So that's going to remain
Yes, it is.
abutting the front lot. Right, okay. Yeah,
I have a question.
yes, please.
So where the easement is there, does the parking lot extend down to there? Do we know?
It does. It's very overgrown,
Okay. So they're
so
not
it does not
using
look
that
like it's being
area.
used currently.
Okay.
But it could be used as parking in that area. However, the easement is there, and that gives him
That's
the
right.
right to use that easement.
Sure.
They basically are going to have to not use that 20 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
most people won't because it slopes down. They don't park down. there.
Yeah.
They park up higher, and they got two other.
I've never
parking-
noticed
Yeah.
I go to that church.
Yeah, I do
So,
too.
and, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we haven't met yet.
Oh, for
Now we
goodness sake.
have. So I just never noticed.
Yeah.
I just
You know,
never
they have
noticed
two
down
parking
there.
lots across the street
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, they have plenty of parking.
Yeah, nobody likes to walk down that hill coming up. You know,
Yeah.
You know, the church. Not that many.
This is where the storm drain.
That's wonderful church.
I was trying to figure that out.
Said between the church and the rectory.
Okay, so it would be right here.
Storm drain.
Yeah. The storm drain that I saw is actually, it's a little bit off this map. It's in the corner of the church's lot. And as I said, it was just filled with debris. And that could impede its ability to convey the waters properly. Somebody needs to maintain it. And since it's on private property, probably for almost its whole run, the city is not liable for that. They won't do it. The church should probably make sure. With the back door of the church is, if you look there, there's under a pile of leaves, there's a catch basin. And that is a lot of impervious surface up there. I mean, that church had 3 parking lots, and back in the day, they filled them. But not so much anymore. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes,
for
sure.
Planning. Do you, let's say this lot were to have a single family home or residence built on, is it your feeling that the drainage could actually be improved with the improvement or building of a structure?
There would have to be, the way the land is, you would be looking at a house that would have a walkout basement. I mean, it's just the way the land
Slope.
goes. And in the backyard, something would have to be done to catch the water coming down the slopes, whether it's some type of a drainage swale or a rain garden or something to to catch that and have it go into the ground as opposed to just continue down the hill.
And that would all be addressed in the building permit process?
Right.
Okay.
The slope is always taken into consideration as well as existing drainage structures. And there is an impact fee, I think, on this too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, my point is the abutters' concerns could actually be addressed with improvement of the lot.
Yep.
One last thing, are you confident that the easement area is adequate for driveway, utilities, fire access, and so on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's pretty wide open up there. Yeah. And again, the easement itself is not a paved area, is it?
It's broken up pavement. It's got a lot of tall grass and some small bushes and stuff growing up through it right now.
So it was used as a back entrance to the lot, the L-shaped lot, so to speak.
At one point in time, it was paved and it was part of the parking lot, but it's broken up over the years.
All right. Any other questions or staff? Charlie, are you still with us? Oh, sleep.
No, I'm
Wake
here.
up, Charlie.
No, that's not fair. I just have to figure my mute out. So yeah, I'm here.
I hope I didn't. Okay, so anyway, just wanted to make sure you were online. That's all. It's the pleasure of the board. It would be a motion to approve a subdivision.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve it, considering that this is just the subdivision.
Right.
All of the other issues as far as drainage and all that stuff will be determined once somebody decides to build on it. So I am going to make a motion to approve PL 2021-0084 SU 56 Washington Street with the staff recommendations and the inclusion that at some point in time, if this is approved, the church will have to move that gate somewhere a little more convenient so it's not blocking that easement.
Would we make that a condition of the subdivision approval, that the gate be removed, or?
Yeah, I would make that 2E.
Okay, so add that under Roman 2E, just before duration. Am I looking at the right one?
What? Roman numeral 1, 2E, sorry.
2E, numeral 1, 2. Oh, yes. Got it. Under planning department conditions.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right. We have a motion. Did we get a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Susan. Any further discussion? Well, sensing none, why don't we have a roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
That's very cute. Yes.
I wish you wouldn't do that. You scare me when you get that close to the camera.
No, I have to, I'm just, never mind.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins.
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. Thank you. Good luck. I hear it's probably going to be a good year for selling residential property.
Get the, I have a surveyor. Do I just go get him to start now and I have to come back?
Yes, you'll go to the downstairs of planning and you'll have to get a building permit.
Okay, but I get a surveyor and all that, get that.
That all has to be as part of this approval, yeah. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless you.
Oh, sorry, man. Okay. Moving right along. PL 2021-0085 SP and 0088 CUP Outdoor Storage, 718 Endicott Street North. Docks Unlimited proposal for outside display and winter boat storage outside. Waiver requested for a wetlands delineation. We need a motion to accept this application. Is it in order, Mr. Trevethan?
It is in order. In order for this application to continue this evening, you would also have to vote to grant the waiver for the wetland delineation. And when we get to that point,
You'll explain all that to us. Okay. So with that caveat, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the application?
I make a
Mr.
motion,
Hodgkins?
I make a motion to accept application PL 2021-0085 SP, comma, 0088 CUP, outdoor storage.
All right, there's been a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, the motion is to accept the application. Any further discussion? Sensing none, may we have a call of the roll, please?
Art Bellevue,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
yes?
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
All right,
Peter.
motion, yes, the motion carries. Very good. Could we hear from the applicant? Come on up.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, sir. Would you state your name for the
My name
record,
is
please?
Terry Graham. I own the company and I also live at that location.
All right. All right. So tell us about it.
Say it again, please.
Can you tell the board what you're doing there and why you need a waiver?
The waiver is in reference to the wetlands. Is that what you're asking me about?
Yes.
Okay. To my knowledge, there is no wetlands, not on my property at all. There may be some next door at Mr. Grant's property. I noticed my perimeter drain at the bottom of the basement comes out on that side. There's a garage door down there on Mr. Grant's side. And that has always been there before I came along. It drained into the green area in Mr. Grant's property. I've been a dock builder for 43 years. I know what cattails are like. Ferns, I'm not sure which one is which. So I don't see any evidence of actual wetlands on my property. I'm aware if they're on Mr. Grant's property, there's a buffer required. I believe that's the case.
Right.
Anything I'm proposing is at least 55 to 60 feet away from that potential area.
Do we have a written waiver request in the packet?
What I'm saying is I don't really understand why I need a waiver.
Well, that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of right now.
Okay.
The waiver request is part of the application. It's not separate.
Okay. Excuse me.
We don't know where the wetland is either. There is a wetland out there, but in terms of its exact location to Mr. Graham's property, we're not sure. And that's why we would like to have the wetland delineated to make sure that he's not in the buffer, but he may not be in the buffer, and it's just an unknown.
So what the ordinance requires him to do is to have the wetland delineated. It may not be any on his property at all, but he might be in a wetlands buffer.
Correct.
But
you could grant the waiver to not delineate the wetland and therefore not know where the buffer line is either. That's your choice.
Would that be something that would be revisited in the future? Should there be any further development?
Yes, if there would be any further development beyond what's being proposed here tonight.
Right.
We would be back into the same situation, right? But my comment earlier is, the requirement is that the wetlands be delineated. And so therefore, for you to proceed with this, I mean, you can hear the applicant's presentation, but before you could vote on this to make the application complete, the wetland would need to be delineated unless you grant the waiver.
Can I ask a
Then you can
question?
proceed tonight.
So what we have before us is a waiver request that reads, wetlands delineation not required since there are no wetlands discernible. However, I will have a wetland scientist certify this if so required later this summer but they are all book solid right now. So if we don't grant the waiver, then he'll have a soil scientist come in the fall and delineate it. And there may in fact be no wetlands on his property as he is claiming.
And in all likelihood, there is not a wetland on his property, but there could be a buffer. That's the unknown.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The buffer is 50 feet, correct?
Yes.
So nothing I'm proposing is closer than 55. That's why I did it.
Gotcha.
Unless you have a vernal pool, then it's 100 feet.
I have no pools. Oh, the neighbor, I don't know what he has. So well, how can I be
So the vernal
responsible
pool
for
only shows up in the spring,
vernal meaning seasonal?
Yeah.
every spring.
Yeah.
And
There's
then it
dense
dries up.
vegetation from his lot line heading north towards Meredith. No idea, never been over there. Don't want to go over there.
Yes.
I don't know how it can affect my proposed use of my property. How can I delineate his wetlands? I mean, this,
Right.
you know?
Well, you
And I
can't.
know from my business what is obvious wetlands, and I know what vernal pools are, and I never have either one of those on my property. So,
Well, when it comes to land use, surprises occasionally occur. So let's suppose, and we have no information to support it, but let's suppose there's a vernal pool on the abutting property. How on earth could a soil scientist go out there without that landowner's permission and delineate the wetland? Why would this applicant have to pay for that? There may or may not be. If what you're saying is true, then his precaution of being 55 feet away might not work, depending on where the edge of that vernal pool is. It seems like a lot of speculation to me.
Well, from the way I'm looking at this plan, sir, you're proposing the outdoor storage 125 feet by 85 feet, something like that, all the way out to your property line, correct?
on the back of the house.
On the back of the house.
Yeah, and that's all towards the Weir side.
So if there were to be something in that direction, he's going right up to the property line. If something were to pop up over here in a 50-foot.
There's no water anywhere there.
Okay.
As long as they don't do it now. I think the issue here is that the delineation is required. And we say for sure that there's no buffer. We might be able to say, hey, looking at the aerials over time, there's no wetland, but can we assure that there's no buffer that encroaches on his land? And if we can't, then we have to stick to the requirement of the delineation. Now, how that's conducted on a budding property is a good question.
It just was happened to be looking at actually some of the case law on this. And this is the reason that we have the power to waive requirements like this. It's an equitable power, and it's in order to introduce a level of fairness to the application of an ordinance. So, or, setbacks or wetland delineations. And we have the power to say that he doesn't have to have a soil scientist go out there. And I think, unless somebody can tell me to the contrary, I think it would be pointless unless the other property owner would allow the entry onto their property for the purpose of inspecting and delineating the wetlands. So we would be creating, if we didn't grant the waiver, we'd be creating a mess, possibly.
Possibly. I mean, I will tell you that Rob and I were out on the property. We went on the adjacent property, Mr. Grant's property, end of May, I think it was. There were still, there's a pool of water in this area here.
I can't see that.
Sorry, this area here.
So,
And I mean, and that was a very noticeable pool of water when we were having, in May, we were having a drought. God knows we're not having one today.
no, not at all.
In May, we were having a drought and there was standing water. So I'm not a soil scientist either, but I don't believe that that is a vernal pool simply by the fact that there was so much water there at the end of May.
Yeah, I can explain that.
Sure.
When I moved in, the perimeter drain around the house comes out on that garage door, which is right in that area that slopes off to Mr. Grant's property. The perimeter drain had ceased to function. It had been silted up, I guess, and my whole basement had a few inches of water in it. I have a finished concrete basement floor, and it was a huge amount of drainage in there, or water coming in from the inoperative perimeter drain. Me, having never owned a commercial property, thought it was okay. I dug out to find the damaged pipe, and with my laser, I was trying to grade it off so it would pitch away naturally, and I was going to fill it in with crushed stone and a fresh pipe with fabric wrapped around it, a drainage pipe.
Yeah.
That was when I received a letter saying I was digging in wetlands. So I stopped all work. I haven't dug a shovel in there because I didn't know. And I was confused by the term wetlands because there never was any and there still aren't.
Well, you wouldn't be the first to be confused. The definition is basically a scientific one.
Well, anyway, I was trying to address my drainage issue, which was flooding my basement. I didn't know I didn't have the right to just go in there and dig it up and put a fresh pipe in. So I stopped. But in the interim, the water would go down and collect in whatever area I dug out a little bit and made a little opening or swale or whatever. And then it would eventually drain out. So I'd like to finish that and put a proper pipe in and backfill it with stone. And but I have no intention of altering the terrain or changing any wetlands of any kind.
Okay.
And also in one of the letters, it said that side driveway was not paved and wasn't there before. And that's not true. It was always there, and 90% of it is paved. I never changed it or added to it or subtracted from it whatsoever.
I think the concern here, though, is, I think the point that Mr. Trefethan is making is that they went out there in May and there was standing water.
Yes, sir.
Clearly within 50 feet of your property line, right?
I don't know where it was.
I don't know the distance.
You didn't measure it,
Yeah,
but
I don't know the distance.
but you said you entered Mr. Grant's property and
Yeah,
that's where the
I mean,
water
I would
was?
say the standing water was probably within 50 feet of the property line. But exactly how close, I'm not sure. And if you, let's just for sake of discussion, say it was 40 feet, which means the buffer would be 10 feet into Mr. Graham's property. And he's correct. He's not proposing to do anything in that corner of the property.
That would be in a perfect example of where we'd waive the buffer requirement.
And you could, yes. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just, there's, as you mentioned, there's a process here and the rules are the rules, but the board does have the authority to waive that requirement.
Does this come before conservation? No, should it?
If he needs to delineate the wetland, it will have to, yes.
It will have to.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we know where it stands, right? Are there any other questions?
Mr. Grant, on the second page with the picture here, you're showing that there's going to be storage in the front yard of boats in the wintertime?
Yeah, my neighbor just got approved, the boat company, and they store, I don't know, 75 boats right next to the street, Endicott Street, and then the whole lot right next to me. And I'm trying to help pay my $6,000 a year tax bill. So I'd like to generate some income too in winter when we're not building docks by shrink wrapping and storing boats. Most of them would be in the backyard, but I'm asking for permission to put some in the front just for seasonal, like the gentleman described earlier. You put them away in December and you take them out in April. And,
Okay. All right. Any other discussion, questions?
And then the other issue was Barge Repair, which I had asked permission to temporarily use the front lot in the off-season to repaint or weld on my barge tanks. My barge is 45 feet long, 2 tanks. Each one is about 13 feet wide and 5 foot tall. It's all steel. So it's a pretty imposing structure sitting on the parking lot. It's not something I want there either.
Right.
But sometimes it needs repair and there's no other practical place to do it. I do own a second barge I bought that used to belong to Dean Mason. And I had to move it off the lot where I bought it because the guy was kind of storing it for me for free, being a nice guy. So I actually had that. I was able to get that in the backyard. And we're going to do the work as requested by Mr. Trevathan in the backyard. And very well, I could be able to also put my regular barge I'm using all the time out back and do any repairs needed there in the same fashion. So I'm trying to abide by the town's ordinances in any way I can. And then I have a proposed a fence so that nothing in the back is visible from the road anyway.
Okay. So, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd rather see the winter storage back here where the existing garden is and not in the front of the building.
Well, my neighbor has them 10 feet from the road, all the way up and down all winter. Same use.
I know. You know,
We're
like
both
that.
in the marine business.
Do we have to address the wetland issue first?
Yeah, that's really the threshold here. So would anyone care to make a motion regarding the waiver? Anyone?
Not being a professional wetland scientist, I'm not comfortable granting the waiver until such an assessment would be conducted.
Can I just ask, what does the topography do here? What way is everything
Generally,
naturally draining?
Generally drains away from Endicott and to the upper right corner of the property. It goes towards that pond that we observed. That's the general flow of the land there.
So the pond that you observed was probably the result of just the land was saturated with water at that point, and there was no further slope for it to.
Up back in May, it wasn't.
I think he said that they went out there when it was drought conditions and there was a
Still
pool.
water, yeah. I mean, it's a natural low point in that neighborhood. You know, it's not just this property that drains into it, it's other properties as well.
So I know we don't have a soil scientist here, but let's say we granted the waiver, and he does the boat storage. What's the likelihood that that will have an impact on that wetland?
0.
I would expect you would say that.
It's true. A boat wrapped in plastic.
I'm
has
asking
0 impact.
I'm putting the director on the spot here, I guess.
Given the locations on his property where he's proposing to do things, I would say no, probably no impact.
Okay. So even if we get it wrong, it won't be at the expense of the environment.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The boat storage out back, or the outdoor storage, whatever we're calling it, are you going to leave the ground as is, or are you going to put gravel out there?
Oh, no, I'm not going to put anything on. Just trailer
The
boats with
gravel
shrimp.
would help stuff
Shrink wrap.
infiltrate more.
What's that?
The gravel will help stuff infiltrate more, the storm water, rather than running off and affecting any wetland if there is.
Yeah, my land is flat except for the part that pitches away from the garage door and downstairs, and the back end of that short driveway on the north side of my property. That rises up and then it pitches slightly down at the very end. That's it. The rest of my land is flat, flat, flat. So there's no real groundwater or stormwater runoff to speak of. And the whole front of my property is paved. There's 21 parking spaces out there.
Well, did you want to say something?
And
Stacey?
just to clarify, the standing water that you and Rob found was on the neighbor's property, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And
It
down,
was up
down
here,
gradient
right, in
apparently.
this shaded area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just above it and actually north of the neighbor's structure there, house, whatever it is. There's actually a freshwater pond that's part of the National Wetlands Inventory. So this area that they observed the water standing in probably drains down into that pond area that's right here.
Well, it's all part of the watershed, the Woonsocket watershed. Yes.
Well,
Counselor.
my understanding of the applicant is he's willing to get a soil scientist to check this.
Yes.
Is that my understanding?
Let me rephrase that. If I'm required to,
I understand.
I'm
You're
not
willing
going to
to do it if
object,
if
but it's
we-
like $1,000 and I'm not rolling in cash. So, but I'll do it if I have to, because I've been there 3 years and don't have permission to display boat lifts, docks and so on that I could sell and rafts and so on. So I'd like to get this all wrapped up, whatever it takes. I'll jump through any hoop that I can comfortably fit through, you know? But the scientists that I called, and I used them a lot in the wetlands work. Of course, I have a professional do my permits now because they got so complicated. But they said they're all equally buried in work. And they would love to help me, but they can't. They're talking months ahead.
So it's not so much the money as the time.
It's both. I'm not eager to throw $1,000 into discovering the neighbor may or may not have wetlands, which is more than 50 feet from anything I'm proposing.
Well, yes, but it seems clear from what we've heard here tonight that water landing on your property may well end up in that vernal pool.
I have no doubt that it does. Yeah.
So that's something we have to take into consideration when we are.
I understand.
Waiver, yeah. So
have we heard from the abutter? Or have we talked to
Several
them
times, yes.
and their feeling?
Most of the time, it is discussions about other aspects that concern this property. They are not per se concerned about the wetland or the buffer. Their rear parking lot area that you can see, on the map is definitely within the 50-foot buffer, but I'm sure it's been there for a long time, because I know that particular business property, just as Mr. Graham's property is, those buildings have been there for, a number of years. I will say, we've been working with Mr. Graham now for about 2 years, trying to get the site plan submitted and approved, and if we have to wait for a wetland delineation, that's that much longer that we have to wait. And he's in theory, in violation of the site plan regulations, because he does not have an approved site plan for what he wants to do on the property. We would like to get this resolved, but not to beat a dead horse. The requirement of the site plan is to delineate wetlands. We know there's a wetland there. Exactly how close it is, I don't know. And I'm reasonably confident that the areas on Mr. Graham's property that he wants to use are not, they're certainly not in the wetland, because the wetland is not on his property, I'm reasonably certain that he's not within the buffer.
Okay.
But, it's a dot the I and cross the T type situation.
Oh, I understand.
And you do have as the chair mentioned, you have the regulatory ability to waive that requirement if you so desire.
Well, I'm looking at your staff review, and I mean, you basically, all you say on the waiver is that if he has a wetland issue, he needs to do a CUP. But we won't know unless something is, unless the soil scientist goes out there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, one second. I'll lose my train of thought. The zoning compliance part of the staff review, it says, you do not have a clear indication of the uses that are being proposed. Is this the first you've heard tonight that who's going to store boats on the
No,
front?
no.
Or what are we talking about?
No, this is part of the ongoing discussions that we've had with Mr. Graham in terms of the site. I mean, he is operating his business there currently.
Yeah.
And he does not have site plan approval. And we've been trying to get to that point for a considerable amount of time. We would like to get to that point.
Me too.
But there are requirements that need to be dealt with in the meantime.
Right. So what do we do with the waiver request?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Excuse me just a moment, sir. Can we break this into two parts, and that is the outdoor storage approval, and then we can beat up on the wetlands part of it as a second or separate. That would get
They are
you
two separate
90% of where
motions,
you
but
want to.
what?
Let me.
What are you trying to get at?
My point is, tomorrow he could put stuff on his property legally. He'd just have to stay 50 feet or 100 feet from that area you identified water in until we can get some sort, in my mind anyway, some sort of a reading. But at least the vast majority of his property, he could do what he wants to do. I guess that's where I was trying to get you to where you'd like to be, and we'll deal with the waiver as a, and I think we can do that tonight. But I just thought if we got that out of the way, he'd know.
Right.
He'd know that he can display stuff.
I hear you. But by doing that, you're eliminating any leverage that we may have from a regulatory standpoint.
So here's my take on it. Usually weigh in, but I say we err on the side of caution and we don't give him the waiver. And the reason is because we could be making a big mistake if we grant the waiver. I'm concerned by two things I've heard here tonight, that there was a vernal pool, or
a pool.
Those vernal.
There's a pool. Water.
There was water in the abutting property, and there's also a delineated wetland beyond it, a pond and a marsh and all that, which are reasonably connected in some way. So that would be my take on it. And I understand the delay and the money and all that, but I mean, we have as much of an obligation to protect the environment as we do to protect the rights of property owners.
Can I comment?
So anyway, that I'm just throwing this out because I haven't had a motion from anybody yet, so.
He wants to make a comment.
Sure, certainly.
So two things. Is there a precedent where a neighbor's property that had the wetlands on it had to be a wetland scientist delineated by a next door property owner?
Yes.
That's happened before?
That
Okay, that's
does.
number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't know your name, sir, I apologize.
Probably
He's
just-
proposing that,
That's Counselor Cheney, sir.
nice to meet you, sir. He's right. I'd love to sell my boat lift and other things I have ready for display, which I cannot legally display at this point. I think a third comment would be the drainage that is there now was always there. It's a perimeter drain feeding into a hose that's buried in the ground that feeds into that area, which may very well have wetlands plants or vernal pools or whatever. The vernal pool requirement is 100 feet. If there is a puddle there that can be described as a vernal pool, maybe my fence, which is the only thing proposed within 60 feet of the edge of the property, would be in violation, then I'd have to move it a few feet or whatever. But I mean, I've worked hard to delineate or design something that would satisfy the requirements, help me to make a living and make the property more presentable and clean and neat and hide the storage or whatever out back.
I understand.
Yes, sir. So that's my position. And another summer going by where I can't sell a $20,000 boat lift that's sitting on my porch that I can't erect or crank up docks or rafts or whatever is difficult.
Understood.
And I haven't made any money from Bike Week either because of the COVID. I declined to have any renters this year because I was scared for my family. So
Yes, it's been a year. This is the first live meeting of the planning board since April, I believe, March of last year.
yeah, we're all working through it.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your patience.
All right.
All right. So we're going to move this one along. What do we do with the waiver?
I have a question for Dean. Is there any way that if we would decide to deny the waiver, that we could, in the meantime, waiting for the wetlands delineation, not approve the storage out back, but approve display out front?
Like he'd be required when it's possible to get the wetland delineation done, but in the meantime, he can make business use of the site
Out front.
out front.
And if I can add, Dean, I understand what you're saying about some leverage, but can we put some language in, like the permission is conditional upon the soil test, a positive soil test, or whatever the,
Or negative.
or, yeah, whatever. So that we could withdraw whatever permission he has if he doesn't get the test done, and if any area that isn't or that is affected by these pools, he would have to remove product from.
I think once you allow him to start putting stuff there, later, if it's delineated and it's in the buffer, the damage may have already been done. That's why I'm saying, can we limit just the display to the front?
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think you could do what Brett suggested, because regardless of what that pond is, body of water is, the front area is definitely not in a buffer of any kind.
Because the structure.
Because of the distance. It's just not in a buffer. So
so perhaps Mr. Belleville could make a motion.
So we could do that, and then
go for it.
After the buffer is delineated, you could come back and get the rest of the approval.
So would that part of it then be tabled until?
It would just be a condition of the
delineation is
approval
done?
that we're granting tonight, right?
It would be a condition of the approval that he could not do anything in the backyard until it's delineated and we see that it's.
review it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would want it to come back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Belleville.
Oh, thanks. All right, let me give this a shot. I'm going to make a motion on PL 2021-0085 SP and 0088 CUP for 17 Endicott Street North, with the normal staff recommendations, plus we're going to go with an additional condition. And what we're basically approving here, the motion, is for the display of equipment in the front of the building and the conditional storage of boats in the back only after a wetlands delineation is done and it comes back in front of the board to review that delineation. So
Seconded.
we're approving the display out front so he can go ahead with that part of the business, but the storage in the back will be revisited once the delineation is done.
All right.
You heard me say I have a 30-ton barge in the backyard right now because I had to move it.
Okay.
We'll work it.
Okay, all right.
So we have a motion and I believe we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion, any further discussion?
So the delineation would be conducted by a professional soil
A wetland
scientist,
scientist.
wetland scientist.
I'm more concerned with the storage of winter boats out by the road. I know the neighbor has them now. And I think there's more appropriate places to store boats than on a high traffic road right on the street. You know, store these boats in the back, get them over near that vernal pool. They're not gonna hurt it during the winter time. I don't think we should allow storage and up close to the road.
Well, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, it's a permitted use in this zone, right? Outdoor boat storage, so.
You know,
I mean, again, I agree with you, I'd rather not see all these shrink wrap boats there too, but that's just my opinion. You know?
Well.
And the neighbor doesn't.
And it's a hardship that he can't do it.
Well, we don't want to go that far.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Thank
Sir.
you. Thank you. I just want to be sure or clear about this. If this is passed in its present form, that barge out back can remain there.
Yes.
Is that what I heard?
I think so, yes, right?
Yeah, we'll work with the applicant to make sure that it's far enough away from any possible buffer impact.
Thank you.
If I can have a question for the applicant
Yes.
real quick. The one that says temporary only winter storage, does that mean you're gonna put them there, shrink wrap them and stuff, and then move them to the back for the
No.
winter, or they are gonna stay there for the winter?
No, any shrink wrap boat on a trailer that I can fit out back, I will. If I get enough business, which is highly unlikely at this point, because I can't really advertise up front because I don't have the legal permission yet.
Right.
But the point is, whatever, I was told whatever will fit in the square footage I'm allowed to put in there as far as shrink wrap boats on trailers or on blocks,
So if business is good, there will be boats stored out front.
just like my neighbor. And I won't put them anywhere near the boulevard.
Okay.
His are right along the edge of the fence, 10 feet from the road.
So procedural question. This is the motion on the waiver or on the approval?
His motion was for the approval of the front display.
And we're
Conditional
in
on-
essence denying the
Denying.
waiver, but allowing the applicant to follow, start use of the lot, the new use of the lot. Okay. I guess I understand that.
So how do I get a wetland scientist to go on my neighbor's lot? Perhaps he doesn't want him there.
Well, first things first. We have a motion pending right now,
Okay.
and we need to discuss that.
And
Yes,
the
indeed.
winter storage of boats there, that is a permitted use, is that correct?
Yeah, outdoor storage
Much
is
as we
allowed,
may not like to.
and
see
indoor
them.
storage isn't, so
Right.
go figure.
Maybe we can fix that.
I think we want to, maybe. All right, so no further discussion. May we have a roll call?
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, so I hope that's crystal clear. We did our best.
As clear as mud.
It's like yes, but. You got a yes, but order tonight.
So if I can get a wetland scientist in the interim, say I get lucky and get some guy come out next month, and Steve gives me permission to put him on his land and delineate the wetlands.
Yeah,
Once
you'd be
that
done with
report
it.
is submitted and I'm well within the buffer, I'm okay.
Yep,
But I still have to come back for another board meeting.
Yes.
yes. But it would be less complicated,
Just,
trust me.
just to show us the map.
Right, basically to
showing
show
that
us the final
land-
site plan and all
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
thank you very much for your patience, sir. The wheels of the government. we're a little rusty because we haven't been all together in this room for a while.
Oh, my.
All right.
Chairman, I would point out, the city council met last night at 7 o'clock, and the meeting adjourned at 7:55.
That was quick.
The wheels of our organization move right along.
What time did we finish the
Telling me I
last,
joined the
the
wrong
last,
board?
didn't we have a Zoom meeting that went till 11?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we're not doing that tonight. All
We're
right.
Not on Zoom.
No.
We might go to 11, but we're not on Zoom.
We're not on Zoom. I believe that we are now at number 11 on the, yes, which is nominations and elections of officers. The chair has appointed Mr. St. Clair as our nominations committee. So we'll let him open it up.
Jeez. Okay, well, I'd like to, and anybody else can jump in with any other nominations, obviously, but I'd like to nominate Peter again for the chair. I'd like to nominate Stacy Susie for the vice chair. And if Mike will do it again, I'd like to have Mike be nominated again for secretary.
Okay. Are there any other people that wish to nominate themselves? That's quite possible. All right, I guess we've rounded up the usual suspects, as they say. What?
I'm just saying, feel free to toss your name into the
I
hat.
second those appointments.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
We third it.
See, I told you not to worry about him. He's just,
I thought you would have made a great choice.
I did.
See how good he is?
yeah, you guys. All right, we have nominations. That's a motion. Is there a second to the nominating committee? There was a second by Mr. Belleville. Any further discussion? Well, may we have a roll call, please?
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hutchins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes, yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for that too. I want to specifically thank the two new appointees to the board because I'm not going to be able to do this job forever either, for health reasons or whatever. I think we also need to reappoint Stacy as a planning board liaison to the Lakes Region Planning Commission. So is that a motion? Or can we just do that by acclamation?
You can do that by acclamation.
All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And congratulations, you've just been elected the vice chair and appointed to the Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Been a busy night.
We're going to give you a flashlight. You're going to the parking lot, start parking cars. All right. Let's see. We are at number 12, Doris Ray Court, PL 2021-001 SU, the corrective subdivision plan, based on a plan that was approved in February. We need a motion to accept the updated plans. So is it in order? Are the plans in order?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to explain all this, right? Okay, somebody will.
Somebody will.
All right, so we need a motion to accept the plan, the amended plan.
Okay, here we go. Gonna make a motion to accept PL 2021-0001 SU, Doris Ray Court, to be accepted.
Motion to accept is made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second by Mr. McNeil. Is there any comments or discussion? Sensing none, may we have a roll call, please?
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. You were very easily amused.
I know, well, I was trying to do it without looking.
I know. You're good. We thank you for all that you do for us, actually. All right, so it's been accepted. Would someone please explain what's going on here? Oh, not him again. Good evening, Mr. Smith. Always a pleasure.
I actually came to listen, but I guess I'm going to talk. I represented the applicant for the subdivision back in February. And prior to submitting the plans to the planning board, I delivered copies to the applicant. And then I find out after the plan was approved that they didn't review the plan and they wanted some changes. And basically, they're very minor changes. The first change is that and I didn't do the survey work. They had a surveyor from Concord that had already surveyed the property, so it didn't make sense for us to resurvey. I just handled the applications and stuff. And the surveyor didn't get the right reference booking page for the owners. Was the first thing that had to be done. And secondly, if you look at, I think it's sheet, can't tell on this whether it's sheet 1 or 2. The sheet that shows the actual lot that we subdivided out. And if you look at what would be the most southerly corner of the property coming down along the side of Doris Ray Court that went out to the lake, they put the line to a drill hole in the water. And that had to be changed and brought back, and it shortened the frontage, but they have a lot of frontage. So they meet all the standards. And when they shortened that frontage, it changed the acreage, very minor, and it obviously changed the remaining land acreage, very minor. And we have a new bearing and distance and a new tie course on the plan. But I think the plan itself is very representative of what came to the planning board, what the intent of the plan was. I do apologize. We never heard anything from the owners until after all this took place. They signed the authorization for me to come before the board. I assumed, and I shouldn't have, I guess, that they reviewed the plan and they were okay with it, because for 4 weeks I didn't hear anything from them.
Right.
Until after it was approved and we recorded the plan.
Right.
And it came about, I think, when their attorney got involved with it and said, we need to make these changes. So that's why we're back here to the board.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for
Plan
Steve?
basically represents what our intent was.
Any questions for Steve?
And I apologize for the confusion.
No, this is.
We don't need a public hearing on this one,
Yeah,
right?
we do not. It sounds like it's an ups and we're just, they've taken the steps to correct it and you just need to recognize it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, as always, Mr. Smith. What's the pleasure of the board? Sounds like it's just basically technical changes to a site plan. Somebody.
I'll give it a shot here. I make a motion that we approve the corrected version of the subdivision plan dated June 16th, 2021 for PL 2021-0001 SU for Doris Ray Court.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cheney. Any discussion? We have a roll call, please.
Charlie St. Clair,
Charlie.
Charlie,
I'm right here, and the answer is yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Belvo,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Let's see. Are there any liaison reports this evening? Anything?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I did want to report that the council had a brief discussion regarding some constituents who had approached Councilor Susi and myself with regards to sewer and water in the northwest corner of the city.
Yep.
I attended a meeting of the Water Commission with Councilor Susi, and we've asked for some cost estimates to start moving water in that direction. I think the master plan needs to look at that issue coming up. But I wanted the planning commission to be, planning board to be aware that this discussion has surfaced and there is genuine interest in figuring out what we can do. The specific areas are Turner Way and to get the other one.
I know what you're talking about. We discussed it at Master Plan Steering Committee, and it will probably come up again this week. So
Yep.
that's good news.
Well, and I obviously no decisions were made at the council, but one of the points that I tried to make that the Councilor Susi and I both tried to make is the water department can't do this alone.
Right.
The city's going to have to look at this in more detail. And Wes Anderson, who was at that meeting, suggested that it would be appropriate for the city to look for consultants to start reviewing that northwest corner of the city. There's a huge piece of state property in the middle of it, not including the state school. There's a huge natural area.
Right.
So how do we get water over to Merit Center Road, for instance, without going across state land? All those sorts of issues that need to be looked at by we think, a consultant or someone. And I would hope the planning board would be part of that review and discussion.
Sure, if the funds are appropriated.
Simple matter.
Any other comments or reports? All right, so it looks like we're at 15, which is a conceptual review for redevelopment of a property located at 50 Church Street. This is not a public hearing tonight, but we have, I see Mr. Schedule is here. And I am going to excuse myself for just a minute, turn the gavel over.
Very good, Peter.
Go back here.
Actually, I think Stacy takes
Oh,
over.
Stacy.
You're doing such a great job. I need to take more notes.
So I'm Nick Schedule, representing the applicant for this project. It's property owned by the city of Laconia at 50 Church Street, the former Holy Trinity School. And we're proposing a redevelopment of the site for apartments. Part of that project will be demolition of the existing gymnasium, which is was an addition to the property, and relocating the entrance from Messer Street further away from Church Street for better access and development of parking, and then a addition to the existing structure to support up to 14 apartment units. So the property has an existing easement along the western side, adjacent to the former rectory building, I guess, or and so that's going to continue to remain as a one-way entrance to the city-owned parking lot in the rear. So that would be a one-way off of Church Street. We're going to have our trash removal screen dumpster that would be accessed on that side of the property in order to allow for circulation of trash truck. I wish I had brought my board. Rob, thank you. So this is going to be the entrance off of Messer Street. We're going to have 21 parking spaces, 2 of which are going to be parallel spots on that one-way entrance in. This is the dumpster area I was talking about. We are putting landscaping to prevent pass through from Messer Street to the parking lot. Drainage will be contained within the parking lot with a bituminous curb and then a catch basin that will direct runoff to, this is an existing catch basin, and directs runoff towards the municipal drainage system. Any increased impervious area is going to get treated and drained to a bioretention rain garden in the lower part of the parking lot. We are proposing a short wall in order to accommodate grades and existing finished floor elevation of the school building, which we need to match for the apartments. I have a couple of street trees along Messer Street, and yeah, that's the concept. I think we need to come before you in order to, I guess, identify that we're looking for performance zoning on this parcel. And I can answer questions.
I just feel like the trash is really close to drainage. Were there other options? I'm envisioning this huge dumpster. It's for all of them to use, correct? All the, and I'm just thinking of rain, and I've seen what has come out of dumpsters after a good rainstorm. And it's just not pretty.
So the existing catch basin that's here is actually the catch basin that drains almost the entirety of the city's parking lot there. So it'd be difficult to move that drainage without.
Well, I was wondering if there
addressing
were
that.
other options of the trash.
There
being
really,
moved.
in order to provide a spot that allows a trash truck to access that and utilize, the front end load to dump the trash and then be able to circulate back out through the, utilizing the parking and coming out the exit for that.
Yeah.
It's really the only space that allows for that to happen on the site.
Maybe it could be downslope.
It actually, I mean, potentially we could put some curbing around that so that we can try and direct stormwater. It's going to be a challenge because we do want to make sure that we keep that catch basin open and
Right.
directing drainage from the city parking lot.
It was just a thought.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. I think we can look at that. We have since submitted our application in order to keep with our deadlines. So this is updated set that's been submitted to the city for consideration on the site plan. I'll talk with the applicant and see if we can come up with anything that might address that concern.
Perfect.
In the meantime, we'll do our best.
You said there, it was proposed for 14 units in there?
Up to 14 units,
Up to
yes.
14 and 21 parking spaces.
Correct. So the parking requirement is 1.5 parking spaces per unit. I will say that the application that we submitted, we did submit architectural drawings, and those show 12 units on the architectural drawings. So I don't know that those are final building plans. My site plan calls for up to 14 units within the building. So we've provided parking for up to 14.
I seem to recall discussion about the area where the 1950s something gym comes down. At a subsequent time, additional units put in there. Am I correct?
The 12 units include the portion that's the addition where the gym is now.
So where would the other two be?
I'm leaving that up to a redesign of the shell, I guess. So if there's a change in markets in terms of number of 1-bedrooms versus 2-bedrooms units, that interior space, the walls could shift so that it goes from 12 units to 14 units. Basically, I wanted to provide parking in a site design that accommodated up to 14 units within the structure.
And the main reason that this is going under the performance zoning provision of the ordinance is for their the driveway off of Messer Street and the parking area along Messer Street. Requirements would normally be 10 feet from property line to pavement, and they are proposing 5. That is one of the issues under performance zoning that you can give relief to. But at this point in time, this is just conceptual. It is not final, but this is 95% there type thing.
Now, along that abutting property line, that abutter's driveway also abuts that property line. So in theory, it's in line with neighboring properties in that way.
So we are looking to approve the conceptual plan so they can move forward with
Performance zoning, yes.
performance zoning.
Yes.
Keep the gavel, I'm going to abstain.
They will be going to TRC tomorrow and potentially be back here next month for a regular site plan review.
Since I missed it, I'm going to abstain and
Just trying to keep
Secretary.
forward that, we're trying to move this along as fast as we can, but
I had only brought
at the
up
speed of
as
government,
concerned about the trash placement.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. I guess that's what we do here. For 50 Church Street, the conceptual review, and I make the motion that we approve the conceptual review and ask them to move forward with the performance zoning and the site plan, and maybe keep in mind what Stacy had mentioned about that whole drainage around the garbage area.
I will
Talk
second.
about it at TRC tomorrow.
Hey, so may I ask you a question?
Oh, and we forgot Charlie.
Yes, Charlie.
I'm sorry?
Go back to
Thank you.
sleep.
I just want to ask the applicant, I'm looking at the design and the parking spaces there. So might understand that birch tree and the other tree will be coming down?
Yes.
Yes, was the answer.
Yeah, well, I was afraid of that. The history of that tree is that when they tore down the building that was right next to that, the construction company and everybody involved with that school went to great pains to save that birch tree because it's probably one of the nicest birch trees in the city. And as somebody, and I know a few other people feel about trees, I would rather see a parking spot taken out of there and those, at least the birch tree, if not both of them, remain for their lifetime. That's my opinion, and I'm sure that there are many other people in the city that would feel the same way.
Charlie,
If
just
possible,
to comment
because
on
again,
that.
if you look around, that's probably one of the nicest birch trees
Charlie, just to
Go ahead.
comment on that, their whole economic plan for this with the 14 units requires 21 spaces. So
I
they're
heard
kinda
that.
stuck to that. And to halt the progress of this for a birch tree,
No.
which birch trees are normally very fickle and could come down the next windstorm, especially when it's out there by itself.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I appreciate your opinion. I just wanted to make my opinion on that, and maybe they can find a parking spot somewhere else. I'm not going to vote against it. I just wanted to get that out there because
I'm sure
a lot
the
of
tree
work went to save
appreciates
those trees.
the concern.
And local dog.
And local dogs.
Thank you.
It is getting late, isn't it?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call now?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie St. Clair? Charlie?
Charlie?
You're on mute.
Yeah, no joke. I put it on mute like I'm instructed to when I'm not talking. You bounce all around calling, so here I am. Yes.
Yes, he said yes, I heard it.
Scott McWilliam?
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins?
Yes.
Bruce Cheney?
Yes.
Rich McNeil?
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia? Stacy Susie?
Yes.
Brett Bellevue?
Yes.
Peter Burnett?
Abstain. Well, give me that look. All right. So I hope we didn't keep you guys waiting too long. We're moving along to 15 Roman 2, which is 18 Endicott Street North, North Water Marine, a conceptual revitalization plan. Whoa. So anyway, I hope we kept you amused.
Thoroughly.
Okay, excellent.
Very
Man
good.
after my own heart.
Well, good evening. And we'll be respectful of your time. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you to talk about what we're envisioning for the marina. North Water Marine, formerly Thorsten's Marine, was purchased in April of this year, so it's under new ownership. I'm joined tonight by Bob Conrad, the owner of Thorsten's Marine, North Water Marine, and Pete Blakeman, who is the civil engineer that's working with us on the site development plan. The marina has languished in some of its upkeep and enhancements over the course of years. And as a result, there are a number of problems that have evolved that need to be addressed, some of which are urgent in nature. And I'll hit on the most urgent during this conversation. The marina also suffers from obsolescence of the current infrastructure. Much of what's on the property was put up 30, 40 years ago, was designed for 16, maybe an 18-foot boat with a 6.5, 7-foot beam. By today's standards, many of the rack buildings can't even accommodate some of those, some of the newer boats, most of the newer boats. So we need to upgrade to current standards for the boating industry. The additional issue is some of the buildings are just tired. There's a few that just need to be taken down and replaced. So really what we want to hit on tonight is to put in front of you what our thoughts are before we dive deep into this plan development and get your feedback on what we're thinking about before we go through and put a ton of effort into executing it and then bringing it in front of you with a full application. So again, addressing facility obsolescence, the failing elements in the marina, one of which, and the most important of which, is building 5. And if you refer to the third to the last page, the existing conditions site plan, building 5B is a enclosed prefabricated building. And that building has a foundation failure. The foundation failure is in one of the footings on the Weir's Channel side of the building, on the water side of the building. It has suffered basically from a lack of drainage mitigation coming off of the roof. That rainwater coming off the roof has eroded the embankment behind the building, and as a result, one of the footings has sunk approximately 6-8 inches and moved outward by about 6 inches. We've had 3 structural engineers review it and say that the building is in failure and we need to take it down. And we are in the process of moving forward with that expeditiously. That ties into the next issue that has to be addressed, which is the embankment that is behind all of the storage buildings and between the water and the storage buildings. That embankment is about a 65 degree slope and is just earthen. And the only thing that's really holding it back right now is vegetation. That embankment is also failing in multiple places and is threatening to further compromise the structures that are behind it. So part of the plan is to be taking down building 5 and then designing and installing about 300 feet of some form of retention system on that embankment. And that's
Between the building and the channel.
between the building and the channel, correct. And we're working together, we're applying for a pre-application meeting with DES to talk with them about what they see as our options. So it's a fairly substantial undertaking. And before we can do anything to revitalize the property in front of that embankment, we've got to stabilize that wall. So we talked about aging infrastructure, then meeting needs for modernization. Drainage on the property has been willfully underperforming, just phrase it that way. The whole drainage system needs to be looked at and appropriately designed to handle the loads that are being put on it. Examples, there are areas in the asphalt macadam between 2 of the buildings where there is rainwater runoff and there's also activities for boat cleaning. Those need to be separated. It needs to go into oil water separator for the boat wash down, and a separation made between the storm water and the process water, where we can turn the storm water off while the process water is being done, and then reopen it for natural rainwater to stop rainwater from going into the sewer system. There is some deficiencies on the sewer connection that need to be upgraded and brought into compliance for one of the buildings. So our intent is to attack all of those. We will be putting a plan in front of you for the drainage concepts and then the building renovations that we envision doing. Let's see. So we talked about the demolition of the building. Ultimately, if you look again at the existing conditions plan, the intent is to take down building 5B. This is the structurally compromised building. Building 6, which is a kind of strange U-shaped rack structure. It's like an open courtyard with bounded by 3 sides of racks, one of which backs up to the water. Boathouse 2 would also be is also being looked at for demolition, as well as building 12, which is a rack storage building across Channel Lane. And there's a lot to absorb here. So we're talking about a lot of different elements. Are there any questions on what we are looking at taking down?
Where are the gas pumps on this plan?
The gas pumps would be up on the upper right-hand corner where it says building 2 partial.
Okay.
It's beyond that. I apologize. We didn't put the full site plan on this to show where the pumps
Well,
are.
the property actually extends all the way up
All the way
to
up to the
Route
bridge.
3.
Yes.
right? But slopes, it's all slopes, everything, right?
Everything is a slope.
Okay.
It's all challenge.
Well, no, it sounds like you're attacking it in the right
Sequence.
way. Yeah, sequence, because you've got to deal with the infrastructure before you start putting superstructure on.
It's a jigsaw puzzle. We have to spend a fair amount of time really absorbing the issues of this property before we could even start moving forward. And it kind of underlies why we're here in front of you tonight, because it isn't run of the mill. We want to talk to you about and get your feedback on what you think of our initial plan. Because again, there's a lot going on here. So if we flip to figure 2, which is the proposed layout.
Yep.
The pinkish color buildings are the buildings that we're proposing to put up.
I think that's magenta.
Magenta, thank you. I was thinking cyan, but I knew that wasn't right.
That's light blue.
There you go. So starting with the building that's across the street on the opposite side of the railroad tracks that abuts the drive-in theater, that's the easy one. What we're looking at doing there is disassembling building 5, the failed compromised building, and taking that building and shortening it by 20 feet and upgrading it to current snow load, having it recertified and reassembling it in the place of building 12. If that does not economically pan out, we would just completely demolish and salvage, send off building 5B for salvage.
Is this a steel building?
Yes, it is. It's like a Butler building, about 6,000 square feet. That alternatively, if we don't move that building over to the building 12 position, we would propose to reinstall a new rack storage building in that position. And we've been in talks with planning staff about which aspects we would have to go under ZBA and which we wouldn't have to go under ZBA. We've got a pretty clear understanding of what we need to do there. And that area there would require probably the most drainage work, addressing the area between those two buildings, building 12 and building 11, and coming to terms with all of the drainage issues that are surrounding that. On the opposite side, we would propose 4 structures to be put up in place of building 5 and building 6. And we would take those structures, and currently the buildings run parallel to the river or to the channel. What we would propose is to take those buildings and rotate them 90 degrees perpendicular to the channel. And that would give us 60 feet clearance in between each building.
Yep.
So we can operate fork trucks, move boats in and out of the racks. It would also open up a lane from a vision lane down to the water and up from the water, and not looking just solely at just one monolithic long building that's along the waterfront. 3 of those 4 buildings fall within the footprint of buildings 5 and 6. So if we're from a non-conforming, going back in place of the non-conforming, we're pretty, I think we're okay there.
Yeah.
We defer to you on that. We would want to ask to, or request in that we elevate the height of those buildings. They're currently about 36 feet tall, and we would propose going to 55 feet tall to do a 4-level rack storage in that. Again, to meet market demands for what Thorsten's, or excuse me, North Water Marine's business plan is. As you move west down the site plan, there is a smaller structure that does fall outside of the footprint of the existing non-conforming. And that would, all of this would obviously need to go in front of ZBA for variance. The red line behind those buildings is the conceptually where we would put this retaining wall of whatever sort, or retention system of whatever sort. And we're not sure what it's going to be yet. We've got engineers working on this now, looking at what our options are. And then lastly, as you move down the site plan, you'll see a green reconstruction of the boat launch area. And what we're proposing in that area is to put in a boat ramp, upgrade the boat ramp, which is existing.
Right.
And then also put in a bulkhead for 2 positions for negative lift boat launching. So you can drive a fork truck right to the edge of the bulkhead and then drop the boats down into the water. That would entail the demolition of the boathouse that's there. And that becomes a negotiation with DES and some pretty involved conversations with them.
Basically, reinforced piers on either side of the, so they can drive the boat trucks right out. What? Oh, 55. Well, here's the grass thing.
Then the last page, we thought it important to look at the volumes of what we have and what we're replacing. And on the building 5-6 side, the channel side of the property, there's currently approximately 350,000 cubic feet of volume in the buildings that are standing there now at 36 feet high, but kind of sprawling along the channel front. The volume of what we're proposing to put back in the place is about 340, so slightly under what the existing is. Even though we're going higher, our volume has dropped because we're taking away some of that just long, not very functional building that's in there. And then, of course, there would be a comprehensive landscape plan involved with all of this. One of the other objectives of the project is to move the foot traffic for the marina down to the docks, or in a pathway that moves above the retaining wall, but behind the rack buildings, to get the foot traffic for the marina off of Channel Lane. There will also be, and I've not mentioned a lot about this, there are 3, as you pull into Channel Lane, there's the Endicott Street facing building and 2 other structures. There's one that's right down on the water near the gas dock, and a brown wood structure. And then a structure that abuts 5B that is an older wood frame building. That will, all those will remain. The plan there is to make those customer facing centers for boat sales showrooms. For building 2, which is the building on the water that faces the gas docks, would be the customer facing location for boat rentals. There would be a store, like a livery store for food and minor food and drinks and whatnot. Training for boat rentals, customer waiting location as the boats are being brought around from either concierge service or rental. And that is where we anticipate executing our ADA compliance. And we've got to figure out how to get ADA compliance from the upper level, which is about 12 feet higher than the water level. And that may involve, I don't think it's going to be a ramp. We haven't gotten that far yet, but something like a Garaventa lift is possible there. where we could get ADA compliance and get folks that need down to the ramp levels or the dock levels. And then ultimately, those buildings will be rehabbed with a common theme, architectural theme and siding, so that there'll be some consistency to it. And then finally, once all of this is done, then all of the docks at the waterfront will be replaced and upgraded. And again, that will be a negotiation with DES there's some very narrow docks there. There's some grade changes. What we have to do to get them wider, to do everything we can to meet ADA compliance down on the waterfront. So it's a lot. That's a big brain dump in a very short period of time. Questions or comments?
Well, comment. This is a very busy site.
Yes.
And you've addressed, I think, several of the major concerns as far as runoff. It's a public drinking water supply, it's Bogus Bay. You have a railroad corridor that goes right through your property, right?
Yep.
And hopefully, by the grace of God, someday the WOW Trail will go right through there. Where were your customers? What would your off-street parking be?
It would be in the lot 10, which is the drive-in theater side. As you progress up Thorsten Lane, the private road, it's a easement over the, a lease over the railroad property. As you move,
Thurston Lane or Channel Lane?
Thurston.
Okay.
As you progress up and follow the drive-in theater movie fence, the property expands back out as we go up there, and that's where the parking will be.
That's where they park now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and it looks to me like all of the, I'm sorry, were you done, Peter?
Pardon me?
Were you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
It looks like most of the buildings that you're proposing are moving back away from Channel Lane there, which is good, except for the very first one at the top there, moves a little closer. These aren't going to impede any of the traffic there, because I know Channel Lane is kind of tight getting through there.
Yep.
And it's not going to interfere with Winnie Marine's, their access getting through at all. Right?
No, and if you look at what we're looking at doing on the first of the magenta, thank you. We're going to slide that building out so that it meets the width of 5A, the first building.
All right. Yep.
So yes, we're moving out a little bit, but it's a jog back of about 2.5 feet in that area.
So then the only other comments I have, I think you did a great job on this. You guys are being proactive, trying to address issues that can be asked later ahead of time. Footprints smaller. Sure, the height is taller, but you're not really blocking any views behind there, because the drive-in up behind there's nothing there. With the smaller footprint, you have less runoff coming off the roofs and stuff, but you said you're going to address the drainage there and everything. And personally, I think it's necessary. I mean, if I'm not wrong, Winnie Marine did the same thing last year, the year before.
Correct.
Boats are changing. The toys that people buy, the sizes and everything are changing, and you have to keep up with the times. So I think you've done a good job with this.
Thank you.
As a conceptual plan.
Yep.
Definitely.
And and Pete is here tonight. Well, oh, there he is. Pete is here tonight. If you have specific questions on drainage and what our thoughts are on handling rainwater runoff, Pete is here to address any of those questions. I think we put a lot of time into moving these parts around and trying to fit them into the footprint and try to be less non-conforming everywhere we could, and still meet the business requirements of the marina. And I think by taking particularly building 6, which is, I've never seen a building quite like this one. It's cantilevered out, it kind of hangs over, and it's just ugly. We'll take that building out, and that creates those 60-foot view lanes that are going to go through, so that as somebody's going down the channel, they're not just looking at that big monolithic building there. And then, of course, as we put the retaining wall in, whatever function that takes or form that takes, we want to get some landscaping and make that attractive as well. The objective here is to make this an attractive feature for the town in probably one of the most high visibility locations in all of the city.
How much frontage do you have on Route 3?
I don't know the answer to that. Pete, do you?
I want to say maybe 60, 70 feet. I mean, it's not much.
If I've got it right in my mind, it's a showroom building, a sign, and then Channel Lane that goes down at that point, right? And you're planning on replacing that building with the one in the...
No, the building up on Endicott is going to stay.
It's going to stay.
We're
okay.
going to it'll be resided and made consistent with the other two buildings.
So you will still have that display area on Route 3?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes. Yep, that won't
say.
change.
And is there, how many levels is that building?
True. It's a weird building. It's 1, 2, functionally 3 levels, but
Yeah,
there's some half levels in there.
Yeah.
It was an old car dealership at some point, and there's some odd structure inside of it in the lower levels.
Okay.
So
a car dealership.
Apparently it was a Saab dealership at one point.
Really?
That's what I heard. Don't know.
Location.
Yes, because the Saab dealership needs to be on the water.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, we have a Volvo up on Route 3 on the water in Meredith. Okay.
So those new heights wouldn't go above the sales building.
The new heights would be higher than the sales building, I
They
believe.
would.
Yeah. I'd want to confirm that for you, but I believe in all candor, I think that they would go.
Like significant or?
It looks like.
Well, because that's high.
It's a fairly high building. I would say maybe 5 to 10 feet, but we can get you an answer on that very specifically.
So the one you're just talking about is building 2, which is just partially shown on the existing.
Building 1 is Councilman Susie's question, the one that's up on the road.
Okay. Yeah. Then there's 2, then there's 5A and 5B.
Yes.
Okay.
5A and 5B are 36 feet. 2 is in the, I don't know the exact number, but it's about 30.
Well, on the existing conditions plan, you have some contours.
Yes.
That indicate the steepness of the slope along the channel. And buildings 11 and 12, which are across the way, are they at a higher or lower level? It doesn't seem to be, or is it all on the same level?
Those are roughly, once you come up the embankment off of the water,
yeah,
it's a grade change from across buildings 5, 6, 11, and 12 is a couple of feet.
Okay.
It's not substantial. The next substantial is as you rise up Channel Lane to Endicott Street, there is a fairly substantial grade change there.
And then to the west of buildings 11 and 12, there's another steep slope up.
That's correct. That goes up to the drive-in.
That's what I was
All
thinking.
right, was there anything that they made you sit there all night long? Is there anything that you can consider it an infill development request?
I didn't really have to say much. I don't like to need to talk a whole lot to hear myself talk. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here. And
Matt and Bob have done a good job of, I think, putting things together. And we are having a meeting coming up with DES, and the state permits are going to be a significant part of this and not necessarily an easy part.
Right.
And we're also working with Watermark Marine, and they've helped. Paul has really worked on designing the lift and everything. And we'll discuss, there's going to be some trading going on as far as buildings coming down and being able to do more development along the front there. But I think getting those docks to allow ADA accessibility and to allow getting people off of Channel Lane and the pedestrian traffic along the docks is a significant safety improvement.
Will this be a stage development?
Yes, it will. The game plan right now is we're working forward towards submission for ZBA for the next submission date and for planning. Timing wise, we would like to, if the world rotated properly for us, we would like to be able to do the demolition. Well, we're going to have to do the demolition of 5 regardless. That's an emergency situation. And also get the docks in this. We would like to get the boat ramp system in this winter.
Did you say demolition of 5? I thought you said you were going to move it.
Demolition or move or
Or
relocation.
move.
Yeah, we were at demolition. We were just about to sign the contract on it, and someone came forward that we had contacted and said, put their hand up and said, we can disassemble this building and move it. So we're giving them a fair shot at looking at those economics. So
Okay.
it's a big erector set.
It is a big erector set. It's somebody's brand new baby.
That's it.
Look at him back there.
It's a good baby. Yeah.
Well, you've got some good people working for you. That's great. So Dean, your thoughts, I think, would be invaluable at this point.
We have met with the team multiple times, as recently as this afternoon. And as they said, there's a lot of moving parts here, but I think the plan is sound, and the way they've sequenced it out, it makes sense, and we certainly want to see that embankment stabilized and taken care of. That's priority number 1 here, and as I know it is for them as well. And obviously, to continue to have a going concern there requires the upgrades and the improvements that they're talking about.
Yeah.
So this is conceptual. This is not for performance zoning. This is just a conceptual plan. I'm sure that they would love to have an affirmative vote of some kind. And obviously they will be back before you shortly with the real site plan and get into the nitty gritty then.
Well, what do you guys think?
Have you guys had discussion with Ben as far as the railroad, as far as what's going on? It's going to be kind of juggle, you work around each other?
With DOT?
No, with the railroad.
Yes, with
Ben Clark?
Well, Lou Barker is the
Okay.
the DOT railroad gentleman we've been dealing with.
Okay, and he'll coordinate then too. Because the other key to that whole thing is when the railroad shuts down, if we get a good snow year, that's also an active snowmobile trail.
Sure.
That's the Tide of Meredith. So that throws another kink in the works for winter construction.
Yep. We've had very involved conversations with Lou at DOT. We've in fact done a survey of it and of the lease and the easement to address any non-conformance we have with them as well, and adjusting the lease with them. So and they've been very, very cooperative. So it's been a good experience all around.
Well, something needs to be done, or those buildings are going to end up in the water.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, just one thing I neglected to say, We looked very hard at how we could stabilize that bank. Could we do it from the water? Could we do it without tearing down building 5? And the bottom line was, after a lot of consternation, we came to the conclusion the only real safe way to do it was to take building 5 down. That to do it from the water, we'd have to put a barge on the lake that's bigger than anything that's here and a crane that's bigger than anybody wants to see.
Yep.
So.
Well, did you say that you'd be back before us next month?
We hope to be, yes.
Okay. You probably know a little bit more then about the specifics regarding the location of the retaining wall, the nature of it, the materials that you're going to use. If you're doing it from land side, you're probably still going to need a crane, right?
We will need it depends if it's sheet pile format, we will definitely need a crane to drive it.
Quiet.
But it could be there's a couple of other options that are being discussed. So some of them are concrete, some of them are steel.
One of the issues with retaining walls right along the shore like that is DES likes vegetation first. And then you got to go to the next option and then finally work your way to a wall if that's the only option.
I'm sure DES would consider the sheet piles to be a structure too, right?
I have a question for planning, if I may.
Certainly.
First of all, exciting project. I'm looking forward to seeing it progress. But Dean, is the if I'm not the drive-in theater property still for sale?
As far as I know, it is, yes.
I mean, and this property abuts that.
There have been people kicking the tires. It's being actively marketed, in wherever you actively market commercial and, property, and I'm not sure where that is, but they're running it as the drive-in right now. But yes, it's listed and it's being actively marketed for some type of commercial site, whether it's a hotel or resort or potentially condominiums. I mean, any number of things could go.
Could be
there.
residential.
Could be residential, yes. Yeah. I don't think for the price that it's being listed for, you could justify doing single family homes on it. It's probably a denser type development, but
right. Yeah. I'm just, do you foresee like future, any implications with the building heights here that might impact that?
No, well, no, because they're up a little bit higher, but
elevation, they have elevation, yeah.
Right.
The way they're proposing to orientate the buildings, they're going to create a couple of, view avenues to go through there. That view goes both ways. If you're going down the channel in a boat, then you're going to be able to see more than you can see now. And if you're at future development, you're going to be able to see some of the water, or so
okay. Thank you.
I think that's a positive.
Yeah,
positive
I agree.
aspect.
Yes, Councilor.
I'd like to make two comments. One, I think what you're suggesting is brilliant. And two, I'm concerned that our chairman can identify and tell us about magenta.
Well, it's a very popular color in stage lighting. One of my favorites, in fact. I have a par lamp fixture with a magenta gel in it. If you'd like to come over sometime, I'll show you how pretty it
You're
is.
sorry you asked.
You've got the colorful necktie.
I know that this is totally off your subject, and I apologize.
That's okay.
Where are we at with the steeple at the church behind you?
Oh, my God. That's for another.
It's still up there.
It's still there.
They're making threatening motions over there.
No.
I'm sorry, gentlemen.
We digress. We've
My
been
new
here
job.
as long as you have. So, well, thank you for coming. And you would like some sort of a sense of whether we like what we heard.
That would be appreciated.
Do we need a motion, or can we do an acclamation? You'd prefer a motion,
I'll
wouldn't you?
make a motion that we approve the conceptual design for 18 Endicott Street North and have them move forward with the site plans.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Sensing none. Could we have a roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Still awake.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Susan Hodgkins,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gents.
Good
Thank
luck
you very
with this.
much.
It'll look great.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll
Thanks
be
for-
seeing you all soon.
Thanks for sticking around.
Here we go.
All right.
Kalina, do we get extra credit if we return these?
Yes.
Okay.
Next round, you're the vice chair.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got
I
left
think I'm
here.
stealing your green paper.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion made. Is there a second?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?